Good evening and welcome to round one of the FSR World Championship 2014. Did you miss us? Well, it's back and for a new season, and we've got some tremendous talent on show. We're already into qualifying one. 8.5 minutes ago. Nobody has set a lap yet. Just time for me to introduce my co-commentator alongside me this afternoon is ace driver Chris de Jong. Welcome to the commentary booth, Chris.
Good afternoon to all of you.
Well, we've just started opening the laps. Jack Keithley and Ivar Calamies are both on fast laps at the moment. We've got some interesting new drivers as well this year as well. Quite a few new teams as well, so we'll try and keep you up to date with that. Maybe during the gap between Q1 and Q2, we'll have a rundown of some of the new teams, because there are some interesting changes this year. There are 4 continents represented in the teams, which is amazing. I don't think we've ever had that before, so tremendous that we've got that kind of interest in FSR now. It really is a world championship now, isn't it, Chris?
It most certainly is. And it's also nice to see that the old favorite names are still not gone here. There's still Precision Motorsport that obviously has to be considered as title contenders yet again. Let's see if there happens to be a change in there. Also, we have, of course, FTS with a complete new lineup. They have Marcel van der Linden and Patrick de Witt now. And, well, the teams as Ghost Speed and Twister, they speak for themselves. They have been here for generations of drivers, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. In actual fact, we're looking at the sectors at the moment, and Jim Paresis has set the fastest first sector of anyone so far that's gone through Sector 1. Ivar Calamies, though, with a very strong Sector 2, so interesting to see how those drivers get on. Jim Paresis, of course, won the Winter Series this year. Calamies has set a 32.1, that's a pretty strong lap, but Keithley immediately beats that with a 1:32.0. But we've just seen a fastest first sector from Morgan Moran, so that will be interesting. Kostadinov, now Gosby goes to the top, seeing some strong lap times already into the 31s here. And look how close it is at the top as well, Chris. The top 4 drivers in within 2/10.
They don't let any grass grow over it, do they? They instantly go full throttle, pedal to the metal. And we already see people diving into the 31.6s. Jim Paresis, 31.659, definitely up there. Rolf van Starkenburg claiming second spot, and Gosby completing the top 3 for now for Twister. He obviously made a switch from Precision to Twister this year. And well, I'm curious to see about the reigning champion Bono Huis, who is just starting a lap right now. Let's see if we can get an on board with the world champion. And going into turn 3, nice up to 7th gear there. Slowly but controlled on the exit. Puts the hammer down in turn 5. Has a nice exit there. Gets into a bit traffic. But I'm really curious to see what pace he will bring to the table.
Yeah, of course we know Bono Huis is always going to be fast as well. I mean, it's it really.
Oh, and he gets a crash. He gets crashed. Bono Huis gets crashed.
Well, we were just talking about this before the actual fact. Funnily enough, Chris, we were just talking about this, weren't we, before the session started, that we were going to have a look at Bono Huis in depth, and that knowing our luck he'd probably crash. It wasn't really his fault, but see there a collision with, I think it was one of the Twister racing cars. Obviously some changes in liveries this year, so just bear with us on that one, but I think that was one of the Twister racing cars, Chris.
Yeah, it looked like it, and the problem for him is now that there's 4.5 minutes on the clock and he hasn't set a time yet. Obviously the first 10 drivers advanced to the Q2, and it's really important for him to get a good lap, in. He has got enough time for 2 laps though. So already Morgan Morant into 31.2, definitely showing pace there with a 4/10 gap to second placeman Jim Paresis.
Yeah, Morgan Moran actually is somebody that I think you really need to watch out for this year. I mean, we know that he's fast, we've seen that in past seasons, but he does hold quite a lot of world records on this new simulator. Of course, we've all moved to R Factor 2 this year. First year with the FSR on R Factor 2. And Morgan Moran is somebody who is proven to have an awful lot of pace on this simulator, Chris. There's a wonderful YouTube video of him driving a Formula 2 car at Malaysia, which I believe is still the world record lap with that car.
I've seen that. It's really astonishing to see that. And well, it's nice to see that drivers as that still line up well prepared on the grid here, and to show what skill it needs to set these lap times. In the meanwhile, Bono is starting his first flying lap now. Let's hope he doesn't get any crash this time, so he can get a lap in. He most certainly needs to in last spot at this moment, with 3 minutes on the clock. At the moment, the top 10 spot is Patrick de Wit with a 1:32.2, which is the Q2 well, benchmark for the rest, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Bono's going for another lap again. We'll give this a second try. Let's see if you could just take us through the rest of this lap if you can.
Yes, most definitely. So here we come on the back straight, obviously using DRS in this zone. It's enabled in both sectors during the qualify. Going into the left hand there. Not completely in the has a great exit, but has a good entry into this corner. So let's see if he can pick up some speed for the rest of this lap. Obviously aiming at a 1:32 low here. Has a good exit on the main straight. Let's see where it gets him. And it is a 1:31.869, which is good enough for 5th place at this moment.
Would you say that Bono's sandbagging a little bit there, Chris, and just trying to get through to Q2? Because it's amazing to see that gap 6/10 at the moment to Morgan Moran. That seems quite a large gap.
But it was his first lap. He instantly goes out again in order to get another lap in. He is still on time, but with the traffic at this moment, it will be hard for him to get another lap in.
Just having a look at the drivers on the bubble, there's just 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. Patrick de Wit in a lot of danger there on a 1:32.042, although if he improves 1/10 of a second, that would actually move him up to 6th place. Just shows you how close it is at the start of this season.
It is.
Ivar Kalame's outside the top 10 as well at the moment in the Precision Motorsports car. That wouldn't be pleasing for them.
That would certainly not be pleasing for them. I think they would both be aiming at the minimum Q1 spot, considering the history of Precision. But the qualify isn't over, and let's see what he can do. He just set his fastest Sector 1 time, Ivar Kalame's. So it is looking promising for him. Now, David Greco also on 9th position, and actually the 8th, 9th, 10th position are shared within 50 milliseconds of each other. It's very close indeed.
It certainly is, and we're just looking at the timing screens at the moment. We've got Eros Masiuli and Matt Sentel that are both improving at the moment. There's a few drivers on quicker laps. Ivar Kalame's is one of them, so we'll see if he can go up into 10.
Bono gives way for his blue flag. With 5 seconds to go, it's impossible for him to set another lap. So Bono Huis stranded with 1 lap. At least he's in with 5th spot at this moment.
Yeah, but he's only 2/10 inside, Chris. I mean, that's not a lot. It's not a lot to play with, is it?
It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Let's see how this goes. Rolf van Sterkenburg still on the flyer, but he seems to be secure in 4. Dion Kostadinov is in 7th. He's in the pit. Jack Keatley in 8th. He's in the pit. Greco 9th. He's in the pit, and Kalame's as well. De Wit on a flyer for that Q2 spot. Just put out a 29.49 in Sector 1. Amazing Sector 1 from De Wit. Let's see what he can do. Can he get into Q2?
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, we've just come to the end of this session now, and Morgan Moran is just a 4/10 clear at the moment. There was a few drivers just finishing their laps. So we've got Antonio Kolarec still on track as well for the Venus Project Racing, that team from Serbia, actually. Slovenia. So an interesting setup there, and Kolarec will be coming towards the line soon. He needs an improvement, though, of 4/10, which is going to be a big ask, I think. He moves up to 13th, so
Okay.
1 place improvement there for Kolarec. Can Patrick de Wit go faster?
Let's go on board with Patrick for the last meters of this lap. He showed a stunning Sector 1, a great Sector 2. Now is Sector 3. Will he make it into Q2? He does with a 39.9 of 31.9. That pushes Ivar Kelemes out of Q2.
It certainly does. So Precision Motorsports, well, we had an inkling coming into this season that their gap to the cars behind wouldn't be as high this year. It isn't anything because they're not at the top at all. Bono Huis in 5th place and Ivar Kelemes out in Q1, and that really is a massive surprise. We're just looking down the order there. I think, that, to be honest, there's no real other surprises in that bottom 10, but Patrick de Wit there manages to put in an excellent lap that actually puts him as well, only 500ths behind series champion Bono Huis. But Precision Motorsports, they won't be happy with that. Only one of their cars through to Q2.
Indeed, and Jack Keatley, David Greco and Ivar Kelemes are all within 25 milliseconds of each other. 3 drivers fighting for that spot in Q2. So the competition here is very tense indeed. Now let's see, top 10 advances to the Q2. We will start in reversed round, starting with David Greco. Each driver will get an onboard lap, which we will follow. And well, let's see what strategies would be chosen by many drivers. Will they qualify on the soft compound or will they start on the medium?
Yeah, and just to let you know as well, while we're in this gap between qualifyings, myself, I don't know about Chris, but I certainly am logged on to YouTube as well. So if you have any questions for us commentators, then please ask them. It might be a good idea, actually, if in your comments you just put commentator in caps before so that me and Chris know which ones to look at, because you guys are always chatting away on YouTube and it just makes it easier for me and Chris to find it. We'll be doing that throughout the season, I'm sure, whoever the commentators are. So we did it in the winter series and it worked quite well. So we'll be doing that again. So me and Chris will do our best to answer your questions as well. We're referred to as experts, but we'll see what Chris thinks of that. I'm not so sure if we can.
Expert. It's only my second commentating, so I'm still a bit greenish in that. How much commentating have you done?
I did a full season a few years ago, actually. I just think as well, though, that FSR's changed so much in that time. I mean, we were just discussing this as David Greco's on his outlap at the moment for Twister, that, you know, this year there are so many changes, Chris, and while he's on his outlap, before he actually gets onto that, we just maybe discuss some of those. Of course, the introduction of DRS this season, which we've seen in Formula 1, but it's a first for FSR this year.
That last question, please.
I was just saying there's a few changes to FSR this year. We've got the introduction of DRS for the first time this year that's already been used in F1.
Yeah, that's a major change, of course, and it gives a better window on the straights to get that overtake maneuver stick. Although you have to have the gears for it. We saw already in the pro broadcast a few hours earlier that if you don't have the right gear ratio in 7th, then it doesn't matter if you use DRS. You still need that setup advantage and that high rev to give you the advantage.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because you've got to have this balance, haven't you, between setup. It depends at what circuit. I mean, at Bahrain here, we have 2 long straights. There is another long straight, but on 2 of the straights, we see that actually the DRS is used, and it's only the 1 long straight where it's not used. So it is beneficial to set it up for the DRS here. But do you think there may be some tracks where maybe people don't bother to set the 7th gear a little bit longer? I was particularly thinking when we get to tight, twisty circuits like well, Monaco would obviously be the most example.
Yeah, and of course, when the wing is set up higher and you have a high downforce, the amount of speed advantage you gain by using DRS will increase. The gap in circuits as Monza wouldn't be as much as in Monaco, but I think DRS in Monaco might be a little bit dangerous there.
Yeah, we just had a few questions through, and while David Greco, he's not going out on circuit at the moment. I don't know whether he went to, I think he must have gone for a comfort break or something, but he's going out now. While he's on his outlet, we've had a question about what we think about Morgan Moran's return. Now, there was quite an interesting state of affairs last year. The Morgan Moran wasn't happy with a couple of the stewards' decisions last season, but he's back for more. What do we think about that, Chris? Do you think that'll be in the back of his mind at all, or do you think that we'll just see a...
It's like as a driver, and the steward decision gets not into your favor. I'm sure you, as a driver, you can always explain yourself in a justice way, because you're a driver. You know, you want to win. You have this personality. But yeah, I don't think he would mind it. I mean, we're in a new season. It's a new round, new chances, and also for him a new team, Crown 7 Netrex. Last year he was at Ghost Speed, but he retired throughout the season, unfortunately. But it's great to see great drivers like him competing here, and I'm definitely hoping to see a great battle between Bono and Morgan. But aren't we all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just had an interesting question as well on YouTube asking us who we want to win the title. I'm not sure it's a good question to ask that, because Chris belongs to Netrex and I belong to FT Faster Than Speed in other divisions, so I'm not sure we'd be the most impartial of on that question, but we'll try and be as impartial as we can while we're here in the commentary booth.
We most surely are. Okay, I believe there are still some problems with oh no, David Greco is actually starting his lap.
So here we come then to the first straight, and David Greco will open the DRS when he gets to this line. You'll see the line coming up in a moment. There it is, with a big sign next to it to make it easy for Greco to see where he's got to activate it. And now go down the straight. He's hitting 320 kilometers an hour into the first corner. It's actually a little bit slower than we've seen some cars going, but pretty fast there. Hooks it up nicely through turns 1 and 2 and away across the curb at turn 3 and down round turn 4. And now coming up to this very technical section, Chris. Very difficult to get through here. Just carrying on there, sorry, Chris is just going away for a little moment there. I didn't quite get the messages through. Greco down through this technical section. So that lack of speed that we saw down the straight may be helping him through here, because that could suggest that he has higher wing settings. Now this turn 9 to 11 section is very tricky. Under braking, you've really got to make sure that you don't lose the rear end. Very easy to do, because normally in a car you don't want to be braking and turning at the wrong time, but you have no choice through there. Through this second DRS section then, towards the end of Sector 2, he comes into turn 12 and up the hill. A very difficult section here. Need to have your ride height set right, or the car bottoms out here over the top of turn 13. And he goes through this second split and now down away down this back straight. No DRS to help you here. A little bit squirrely there on the exit, David Greco. Just looking a little bit out of shape, but he gets it back under control as he comes down towards this final braking zone. And through there, neat and tidy, it's looking pretty good this lap. And down away towards the DRS section, just get a short burst of DRS before the line, and it's a 132.4. I think that's a decent lap. Actually.
That is a decent lap, I believe. A 32.4 with the parked Fermi setting stern on. So they do have the full red sizes, they do have the full duct sizes. I believe that was a nice lap.
I think you're right, Chris. So I will leave you now to Chris. Will take us through Jack Keithley's lap. Can Keithley beat Greco?
Yeah, that's the question right now. But Jack Keithley isn't near the finish line yet. What do you reckon, considering Keithley's position last year in the championship? Will he be a contender for the pole?
Well, possibly. I mean, we've seen Jack Keithley has a lot of speed. There were a couple of incidents during last season. I think he just needs to cut those out as well, doesn't he? I mean, we've seen that. If he can cut those out, because winning a championship is not just about being near the front, it's also about consistency.
Indeed. He has he does have a good exit out of the last turn, which is obviously crucial starting any flying lap. Now here we go. He's well over the 315 kilometers an hour, almost reaching 200 while braking for the first turn. Locks up a bit with his right front, but isn't really compromising his lap. Now, making up for turn 3, you really want to have a good exit here. And he does find the limits of his car. Now, into the left and fast right-hander. Gets some understeer there, which compromises his exit. Now here's a corner that will catch a lot of drivers out with locking up the tires. This left-hander is so demanding for the left tire. You see how he blocks up here, and he easily lost 5% of his life there in his tire. So that's not nice, but it did look fast. So let's see where it gets him. Does take a nice line into the left-hander at the end of sector 2. Now coming into the beginning of sector 3. Finds that entry spot right on the curb and a nice exit. I'm really curious what he will make of this. Has great sector times. Now the last sector, here we go. Comes on the straight. Finds a decent exit. Has that short burst of DRS and it gets him. The time doesn't show in my screen. It's a 32.3. Nice. It's a 10th fasting.
It certainly is, and Jaakko Stadenov now coming across to start his lap. We just had a question about whether there were any Irish drivers in Formula SimRacing World Championship this year. I don't think there are, but if you are from Ireland and you fancy a go, then come do some testing. Maybe a team will spot you. Jaakko Stadenov then looking pretty good through the opening couple of turns as he heads now down the back straight towards turn 4. Very difficult here. You brake very late here, and we see that you use the gears to just help brake the car. It really does help to brake a lot later when you use the gears to get that speed down. And Kostadanov here looking pretty good through this first sector and now into the second sector. But this is let's just watch the car through here and see if he has to make any steering adjustments as he goes through the turn 9 to 11 complex.
He doesn't lock up though.
No, he doesn't. It looked very good. It was the fastest sector time from Jaakko Stadenov, but it was just a 100th slower than Jack Keefe. In fact, 9,000ths of a second in sector 1, so it's very close here. So if he can do a good sector 2, then he's got a great chance of getting this into provisional pole. Obviously, there's another 7 drivers to come after this, but it's looking okay so far. Just looking at the second sector time, I think it was a little bit slower than Keithley in that second sector, just waiting for it to come up. Yes, it was 33.9, so 39.9 rather, so he's a couple of tenths slower than Keithley through sector 2. That's the slowest second sector that we've seen in sector 2 in this session. But Kostadanov comes towards the line, 1:32.615. He does go third, and that, of course, is the slowest of our times in Q2 so far. For Eventa SimRacing, a brand new team, a Bulgarian team in World Championship this year. Kostadanov, of course, their home driver, also from Bulgaria.
Yeah, and a very quick one indeed. We saw him last year clinching the pole in Monza. So he has shown he's got the potential. As does Peter Briljak, who's starting his flying lap right now. Has a nice top speed. Manages to brake. Ooh, and he locks up. Peter Briljak is done. He has a massive lockup. And he is done. That obviously costed him a lot of life on his tires as well. But nevertheless, he will start in 10th place.
Yeah, that really wasn't good for him. So Briljak, well, I mean,
good for him.
No, I mean, the thing is, he didn't set any sectors either, of course, which is crucial, because if somebody else spins out, if they just get round the first sector, that will put them ahead of Briljak.
True, although that is the least of his worry right now. He will obviously think, what happened? What happened? Is my brake balance too far to the middle, you know? What did I do? But and now we obviously have to wait a little bit longer for next person to make his lap. But nevertheless, that was an epic move of Peter.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, this one, because this is the first time we've seen strategy come into play, because Padre de Witt has gone out on the medium tyre. Now, of course, in FSR these days, you have to run both sets of tyres. So that's the yellow sidewall tyres, the soft tyres, and the white sidewall tyres being the medium tyres. The great thing about this year, about R Factor 2, is, unlike R Factor, we can actually see the colours of the tyres on the broadcast, whereas that information wasn't sent before, and you just got a generic texture. But this year we can actually see the colour, so we know what tyre a driver is on at any point during qualifying or the race. And De Wit here going for the medium tyre, Chris. What do you think the thinking will be behind that?
Well, obviously he wants to have a stable pace, and he wants to get the advantage, the grip advantage that the soft tire gives you. He wants to save that for later in the race. So let's see what it will give him. But it's certainly an interesting choice. We saw in the broadcast of Pro that the driver who started on medium there did not have a fortunate race, however. But well, let's see how Patrick does it. So take us to the lap.
Yep, down here into turn one, and what Chris mentioned is crucial there. A bit having a lock up, but the problem with starting on the medium tyre is you may slip back through the field, and then you get into the middle of it where all the action's going on, and possibly accidents if there's a few drivers trying to win things too early in the race. But very tidy there through turn 4, so a little bit more of an improvement there by De Wit. We'll have a look at the first sector. It's a 30.0 for the first sector. That's not particularly good, but of course he is on the medium tyre, so we have to bear that in mind. Oh, well out of shape there.
Big lock-up.
A massive lock-up, and he locked up the rears and the car just slid out, but he managed to keep it under control. So that's good news, of course, because De Wit here, if he sets a lap, he knows that he'll be ahead of Peder Berljak. That's a certainty, because Berljak didn't set a lap. So we're going here now down the back straight. There's a lot of speed in this FTS car this weekend. He's already up to 307 kilometers an hour down the back straight. That's impressive because that straight isn't particularly long. Obviously got the DRS to help him, but look here through sector 2. So what's the time through sector 2? It's a 40.4. So yes, this is going to be fourth. We'd have expected that. Nice and neat through the first corner in sector 3, and now down towards the final corner. And you just want to spot your braking point here. You'll see them braking at about 75 meters to go. It really is astonishing how these cars stop. And away, just kissing the curb there on the left-hand side, and down towards the finish line. And the lap time is a 1:33.455, so about a second slower. That's actually not bad on the medium tyres to only be a second slower, Chris.
It isn't bad. And even though he didn't have the cleanest lap there, definitely not with the lockup in sector 2. But well, let's see how he gets on. We're now on board with reigning champion Bono Huis, as you English persons like to call him, into the second straight here, getting up to almost 300 kph. Let's see what he can get off this lap. Yes, he's shown nice pace to the fast corners, starting on the soft tire. And what's so obvious to Bono's driving style with me is that he's braking, and he's so controlled with selecting the gears. But not in this particular corner. He has a massive lockup into the last turn. Now with the DRS, what speed can he reach? Just lanes 300 kph. Has a great exit here. Down in the last part of sector 2. Coming up to the back straight. Now his sectors are looking promising, but what can he make of the final sector? This will be exciting. Has some good speed here. Has a nice entry. Now let's see, 1:32.3 to beat. Bono comes in first place, 32.0, 3/10 out of the GT Omega car from Jack Keithley. Astonishing lap from Bono, and nearly got into the 31s. But the question now is, will we see a 31 today?
Well, I think we might, because we saw a 31 in Ace yesterday in Q2, I believe, and I know that they run lower radiators and ducts, so there's slightly less weight in the car, but I'm not sure that'll be enough for pole for Bono Huis. Anyway, Rob van Starkenburg now on a lap for GT Omega Racing. Of course, I think they're still the sister team of Precision Motorsports. I'm not certain, but Van Starkenburg, of course, did drive for Precision in Ace last year, so that would seem to suggest that. He comes now up towards turn 4, and this is where we've seen a few drivers locking up. And no, Van Starkenburg very tidy through there. Gets a little bit squirrely on exit, but he gets through there. And let's have a look at the first sector. It's a 29.7, so that's actually the 5th fastest time through that first sector. So that's not particularly good, actually, from Van Starkenburg, considering, of course, that he was ahead of Bono Huis in Q1, but not a particularly fantastic first sector. And he's a little bit out of shape. Had to make a small correction there before entry into turn 11, so that will have hurt the time slightly as well. Now, what kilometres an hour is he reaching down the back straight? Yeah, it's also 300 about that area, so Precision Motorsports and GT Omega Racing going for a slightly higher downforce setting, it would seem, than faster than speed. So that should be interesting to see how that plays out as the race goes on. It's a 39.6 through the second sector. That virtually matched Bono Huis, actually, so a much better second sector from Van Starkenburg than his first sector was. Can he drag this back up towards second or maybe third? I think he might slot into third here. I'm not sure about second, given how the first sector was, but there's a possibility. Let's see as he comes towards the line. Here we go. 32.3, he does just slot into second place, but it was very marginal over Jack Keithley, his teammate.
Well, that's a nice edge on you to have on your teammate in qualify at least. But Bono Huis still on first. Can he be beaten today? Martin Gosby is gonna try in the Twister Racing black car. Has a decent turn 1, but has trouble on the exit. And of course, the exit is the most important thing, definitely with a big straight like this coming up. Let's see if he knows what his sector 1 will be. He's at a 29.7, so a little bit down. Let's see if he can make it up in the following sector. Chooses second gear in here, where others use first. Let's see if he continues with that throughout here. Also chooses second here. Let's see if it improves his exit. Can make use of the DRS. Let's see what it gets him. Has a nice way through here. Now up to the hill. End of sector 2. Has a nice sector 2, 2/10 faster than Bono. Can he make this stick? We are coming on the last corner now. Takes a nice line. This will be interesting. Will he make it? Martin Gosby. Ooh, 50 milliseconds shy of Bono Huis.
Yeah, that was very close, and I'm sure Bono Huis was sweating a little bit when he saw that second sector time. We're going to see Jim Paresis now, the Winter Series champion. He won the Winter Series in FSR this year and got that drive with Twister Racing Black. Interesting, Twister Racing don't seem to have a second team as such, because their team lineups are very strong indeed. That really will be able to take the fight to Precision Motorsports this year. Of course, they have the same sort of setup with GT Omega Racing, another very strong team. And of course linked with Precision. Nice first corner by Jim Paresis, and goes there through the second corner. You'll notice that they switch up to third gear there quite early. That just helps with the traction away from turn 2. It really is difficult to get the power down there in that corner, and Jim Paresis there just shifts up early just to aid with that. It just lowers the revs and enables the car to settle itself. The first sector was, well, it was pretty good. It was a 29.8. I mean, it's still not as good as Gosby or Huis, but bear in mind that Jack Keithley on a 32.3 did a 29.9 in the first sector, so that was slower than Jim Paresis has just gone. But it's not looking like Paresis will be troubling Huis and Gosby here. We'll have a look down the back straight here, compare Twister Racing's straight line speed with Precision Motorsports. About the same, actually, 302 kilometres an hour. So it just seems that faster than speed and Netrex have gone for slightly higher top speed this weekend. It's a 39.7 through the second sector, so again a little bit off Bono Huis and quite a long way off Martin Gosby, who put in an absolutely tremendous second sector. I think if his first sector had matched that, then it would be very difficult to beat that time for Paul.
Definitely.
And we'll look Jim Paresis down here, down the final straight. What's the lap time going to be? It's a 1:32.6. It's a bit disappointing from Paresis on the soft tyres, because that puts him 7th. But now we're going to have Morgan Moran's fast lap, and for that, Chris de Jong will take you away on what could well be the pole lap.
It could well be the pole lap indeed. We're all looking forward to this. Coming onto the straight, going 3:24. Now let's see what Morgan can do. Has a tight line through there. Nice first 3 corners here. Now onto the first. Right, finds a good braking spot here. Takes second gear. Has a good exit. Now coming up to the middle sector. Has a 29.493 in the first sector, so that's definitely up there. Really tidy and controlled there. Morgan obviously wants to have the pole position and wants to get the best possible starting. This is tidy work here. Now with the DRS open, what speed can Morgan get? We saw the other drivers clinching 300 kph. Morgan is also there with 303. This is a great lap for Morgan. Now on the end of the second sector, what will his time be? 39.1. 39.1. He's up for pole here. Last sector to beat. What will his time be? Coming up the back straight, will he get it? What do you think, Thomas?
Well, I think I'd be amazed if this isn't pole.
Same here. And he gets pole with 6 tenths, exactly 6 tenths. This is amazing stuff we see here from Morgan Morant. Amazing stuff. 6 tenths of Bono.
Wow. Wow is all you can say about that lap. A 1:31.4. It's not far off what he did in Q1. Couple of tenths, I think. I think it was a 1:31.2 in Q1. So that is an amazing lap time. And Bono Huis, well, the world champion has dominated the last 4 years of FSR, but he's going to have a look at that time and think, oh, I've got to find 6 tenths. How do I do that?
Although it's one lap, he still has to scratch behind his ears and say, okay, this is going to be tight. Now, obviously, we have a really nice grid lined up here with the names we are all used of. Obviously, it's Rob van Starkenburg, his first year in World Championship, and with a 4th starting place, out qualifying Jack Keithley, who had, I think, a lot more World Championship experience. He can look back at a decent qualifier.
It's interesting that we've got Martin Gosby as well up there in 3rd place. Some people who were watching FSR last year might remember that he challenged Bono Huis all the way for a race victory at Silverstone. In actual fact, was due to get the race victory after Bono retired, but then pulled back so that he could, a very complicated rule system that meant he had to give the win up so that he could stay in the Ace division, or what was World Series at that time. But Martin this year, we'd expect him, he could well be challenging for quite a lot of victories, and probably from quite early on, Chris, because he's shown the pace before.
He has shown the pace, and I'm sure he's up there or with the best, and showing his 3rd place on the grid. Well, it shows potential, but let's see how the strategy goes. I remember the lockup from Jack Keithley, and I think he will have a lot of problems during the race. This cannot be underestimated. I mean, we both know as drivers, a few lockups and your tires are gone. And for people that are on well, 1 stop, 2 stop, I think what will be the minimum stops here? What do you think?
Well, I know in Ace we were looking at 2 stops and 3 stops, I think, for most of the drivers. So I suspect given that this is obviously, I think, 40% longer. The Ace races run at a 60% distance, and I don't think anyone did a 1 stop in Ace. I might be wrong, but because I was actually driving myself, so it was a bit difficult to see what others were doing. But I think most did 2. So I think we should probably see 2 or 3 today, possibly. I should imagine 3, because the thing about the soft tyres here, Chris, and it was interesting what you just mentioned, the new tyre model for R-Factor 2, in R-Factor 1, if you locked up a lot, it really didn't matter too much. The tyres didn't wear that differently to it if you weren't locking up. In R-Factor 2, it's a whole different tyre model, and it's a lot more complicated. So we're looking at, if you get a lock-up here, you could cut maybe, we're talking the soft tyres, if you do a lot of locking up, they're probably only going to last 7 laps. Whereas if you are a little bit kinder on the tyres, you might even be able to get those soft tyres up. I've known people to do 14 laps at this track on the soft tyres, and that will make a big difference in the race, won't it? The tyre conservation.
It will, and the skill comes into play here as well, because we've seen drivers in Pro today who could only manage 7 laps with softs, and we also have to take in effect that the fuel they use here is much higher than they've used earlier with Ace or Pro, because in here I think they will use around 210-220 liters, where in the Pro and Ace races we've used around 140. So those extra 60-70 liters will definitely play part in the tires. Nevertheless, even with the high fuel tanks, I'm curious to see what the times will be.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The whole ball game has changed totally this year with moving to R Factor 2, and it really has been fascinating over the last day to watch how the drivers are adapting to that. And it has, we could see Moran and Huis there at the top of the grid, but just to give you an idea of how competitive this field is, we've got 2 race winners, former race winners of World Championship in 24th and 25th place on the grid, in Mark Alberts and Blair Disley. Both of them have won races in World Championship in the past.
Yeah, and the name of the game has changed a lot, and literally as well, from R Factor. And well, don't even want to talk about back in the day where you have to send your log and didn't race each other physically on the track, and it was just about timing. But yeah, it has changed a lot, and well, it's a new chapter now in the real F1 and also in our little digital online world. And well, I'm really curious what the kind of racing we will see.
Yeah, ours is far better than F1, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so we're seeing some lap times in practice. I wouldn't pay too much attention to this because we don't know the fuel loads. Yesterday, certainly in Ace, there were a couple of drivers that weren't necessarily practicing race stints on full fuel. They were maybe trying out what the second stint would be like, or the third stint during the race, because it really depends on what you've been struggling with in qualifying. You need to just have that last minute practice doing the different settings on fuel and where you really feel you need to work on, because they've only got now 5.5 minutes until the race, so it's just last checks here, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it is. It's putting the dots on the I's and checking if everything is correct. And well, the drivers in Q2 who participated in Q2 can't adjust any setup changes either way, but yeah, it's moving up to the race, and I'm curious to see what will happen. Bono is already in the 36s, and although it's right to say we shouldn't take these warm-up times too seriously, it's already nice to see that with a full fuel tank there in the 36.
Yeah, it's nice to see a Netrex on pole as well. We just tell you a little bit about their team manager, Ernesto De Angelis. He's a guy who was right here, right from the very first year of FSR, which I think was back in 2001. That's 13 years ago, and he's been here the whole time. He owns the Netrex setup. He's a very handy driver himself, actually. In the early days, challenged for the championship with a Polish driver called Artem Lodzinski back in 2002, and
I believe he is
runner-up.
He has been a champion in the past, if I'm not mistaken, and so he has earned his bragging rights. And he also raced drivers like Greco in FSR years ago, and it's nice to see Greco return. So, and Greco, of course, is a name for itself in online racing.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, Chris. Just rechecking that, you're right. But Ernesto De Angelis is a former champion. He actually won the championship in 2002. It was 2001 where he was the runner-up. That's right. So he's finished in the top 2 in the championship twice in the past. Now owns his own team as he's getting a bit older. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. Morgan Moran, of course, on pole for his team. And the other car performing well as well, Gergo Boldi. Now we're about to go on the formation lap then of this first race of the season as the excitement builds. And nice to see as well a full grid here today, Chris. We do tend to get that in FSR, a very well supported series and usually a very professional series. I don't know if I've put the mockers on it a bit there.
No, you certainly can. I mean, it's fair to say that FSR is the main league on Air Factor 2 right now in level of competition. if you see the driver lineup here and the kind of reputations they have, they're known across the online paddocks, if you like to say so. So let's see what we can certainly expect the best from online racing in these upcoming 57 laps, and I'm really curious to see about the first lap. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick. We're gonna take a quick look on the grid. Obviously, Morant took that brilliant fast pole position and clinches first place. Bono Huis takes second, followed by Martin Gosby on third. Rob van Starkenburg in his first official race in championship as a competitor from the start starts fourth. Keith Lee on 5th, Greco on 6th, Kostadinov on 8th, and Parisis on 9th. Patrick de Wit is followed on Patrick de Wit is on 9th, Peter Biljak 10th, and Ivar Calamees on 11th.
Yeah, then we look down the rest of the group. We've got Marcel van der Linden, the second of the faster than speed cars, is in 12th place, not far behind his teammate De Wit, far more experienced, of course, Patrick De Wit, so great to see him there. Antonio Kolarec is 13th, with Baldi 14th, Ville Lepelith 15th, Oslakovic 16th, Rodriguez 17th. Then we have Mashuli 18th, Centel 19th, Peter Helmbro in 20th, Zuhats Kaibo in 21st. We've got Dino Paolini in 22nd, Mark Alberts, a former race winner, in 23rd, Blair Disley 24th, and Giordano Valeriano in 25th, and Carlos Martin in 26th, the Spaniard, who also raced in Ace yesterday, of course. I think he finished 5th in that race after an incident late on in the race that shoved him down from 3rd to 5th. So nice to see him appearing here in World Championship as well.
Yeah, and there's at the moment a problem with the launch control of Marcel van der Linden, who is saying it's not working properly. He's not driving where he's supposed to drive, and while other drivers are already off the grid, Marcel van der Linden is at the back straight. So I'm curious to see where this is heading.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chris, actually, obviously I'm going to look at the front here, but if you could maybe just keep an eye on him, we'll see if he can get away from the start, because it's quite difficult. There's obviously 26 cars here to look down on the grid. Hopefully van der Linden will be able to get away okay. It'd be interesting to see whether he chooses not to use the launch control on the start. It's actually mandatory to use that launch control, but he may feel that if it's not going to work, it's just going to create danger for the other drivers, so he may try to make a getaway without it. Anyway, we're coming up here then to the start of the race. Morgan Moran on the right-hand side, Bono Huis in second. Which of them will get away faster? It's 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And away we go in a brand new season in FSR. It looks like it's a pretty good start from Bono Huis. How has Morgan Moran got away, though? He's got away pretty well as they come down into the first corner. Look at Gosby there having a look up the inside, on the outside now, in fact. And Gosby, has he got around Bono Huis? I think he has. It's coming up towards turn 4 here. It's going to be a battle between them. Can Gosby go around the outside? He doesn't need to. He's already got the place. And Van Starkenburg is looking at Bono Huis as well. Huis goes for the back to the inside. He's not going to make that stick. But a great start from Martin Gosby. Gets him up into second place. And Marcel van der Linden, I don't think, did get away very well, because he's dropped down the order to 17th from 12th. So that's not a good start, Chris.
It isn't, but it's a flying start for Morgan Morant. Already almost got a second ahead, and there's no DRS in the first 3 laps, so that's comfortable to have. And Bono Huis obviously, well, he got jumped there by Martin. Great work from him.
Yeah, absolutely, and your point is very good, because Morgan Moran is already outside of the DRS zone when that DRS is activated after 3 laps, so that should be interesting. Patrick de Wit has made a lightning start. Don't forget, he's on the medium tyres, the harder of the 2 compounds, and yet he's up from 9th to 6th.
That's a brilliant start from him, but he locks up in coming into turn 14. Let's see if Dejan Kostadinov can make advantage out of that.
Yeah, it's definitely, Kostadinov's going to be all over him down the straight. Won't have the aid of DRS this time round, but nevertheless he's going to be in the slipstream. But don't forget, those FTS and Netrex cars are very quick down the straight, and even in the slipstream, Kostadinov isn't really closing up that much. He's closing up a bit now, though, as they get towards the end of the straight, but it isn't enough. Those faster than speed cars and Netrex cars very quick down the straights, Chris.
They are, and it's sad to see, and I would like to point out Jim Paris is just, he's going into the pit. Jim Paris is pitting. Obviously he had some problems during the first lap, and he's pitting in last position. Very unfortunate for him. There was a minor incident in the back of the grid which caught out, I believe, Carlos Martin and Blair Disley. Let's see if they can continue the race. Morgan Morand already has a 2-second lead up to Martin Gosby, who is closely followed by Bono Hughes. Rob van Starkenburg at 4th position, Jack Keatley behind that in 5th. Patrick DeWitt seems to be following quite well with only 9/10 between them.
Yeah, and this is interesting because DeWitt is on the harder tyre, as we already mentioned, and that tyre, well, certainly in Ace yesterday, it was usually about between 1 and 1.5 seconds per lap slower. So for him to be holding in 6th very nicely at the moment, that is very encouraging for his finishing position later on, because all the other drivers will have to go onto that harder tyre later on. He doesn't have to. He will be going on the soft tyres later on.
Correct, but I doubt it to see a one stop in this race. It would be absolutely amazing if the drivers here could make, well, 35 laps or at least 30 laps on the medium compound.
Just thinking, Chris, do you think that we'll see 2 medium stints today, or do you think that drivers will opt for the soft tyres a bit more? Actually, I'll come back to you on that one, because Oslakovic is getting a run here on Ville Lepela down the straight. This is for 13th place. Lepela goes to defend. Can Oslakovic get up the inside? He can. He's going braking down into turn 1. Lepela's got it covered though around the outside, but there was a chance there. Marcel van der Linden is looking up behind them as well, because he's trying to recover from his bad start. They're obviously not using his launch control, not working properly. He's back up to 15th. He got down to 18th at one stage. Can't quite make a move on Oslakovic up into turn 4.
No, Oslakovic had a wide exit there, and Marcel is looking closely. He's really, he looks a bit frustrated actually. He's really trying to get past quite quickly. Let's see how he can improve.
Yeah, of course you would be frustrated from that start. Not the thing that you want to go wrong, particularly when you want to get your season off to a good start. For the launch control to fail first time out, that's really unfortunate for him. But Morgan Moran is 2.2 seconds clear now of Martin Gosby. That's plenty clear in terms of the DRS. We won't be seeing that activated from Gosby later on. Just trying to look at how drivers that are making progress. Peter Berliak, actually, who had that poor lap on the soft tyres. I think he is on the soft tyres in Q2. He didn't have a good lap, and he's actually slipped even further back. He's down to 12th now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him. Talking about the winners and losers at the start, Gergo Baldi managed to get himself up into 10th position. Mind you, he's also on the medium compound. And well, he has been struggling this weekend to find some pace. I'm really curious to see what he will make of his stint in this early race. Ville Lepela is already up to 13th place. I think he has won some positions off the start and is well, now battling with Berliak, of course. And Van der Linden is now losing some time behind Oslakovic.
Yeah, I wonder if he's having any more problems with that car. It certainly doesn't seem to be working too well in the early stages of this race. You see a snake there down the front straight. Everybody trying to pick up the slipstream of everybody else and weaving back and forth across the straight to try and find that slipstream. It really does gain you a lot of time here in Bahrain, and
indeed,
I think that we'll see a lot of that during the race. I mean, obviously you're only allowed to make one defensive manoeuvre, but they were quite a bit apart, their drivers, so I don't think there'll be any problems with that.
As a driver, you always try to find the limits, and sometimes the egos do collide, and obviously every driver would never easily agree it's his fault. We almost have 4 laps on the board now, and it's interesting to see that, well, obviously the 2.6 second lead of Morgan Morant to the second place, but the second, third and fourth place are going into a battle of their own. Rob van Starkenburg in 4th place is now 2 seconds ahead of his fellow GT Omega racing driver Jack Keatley. So there's a small gap being created there.
Yeah, and interestingly, on the last lap, Van Starkenburg was 0.3 of a second faster than the man in front of him, Bono Huis, who is finding himself in an unusual position this year. He's got lots of drivers around him. I'm not sure if he even remembers how to do this.
Well, third position is still high up, and it wouldn't be fair to say that it's unusual, but it's certainly a different perspective than he had the last couple of years, where we often saw him get away by the start, and we wouldn't see him again, and he would just score the 1, 2, 3, the fastest lap, the pole position, and leading the race from end to start. But it's nice to see that a guy with talent as big as him is going to have to fight for the victory as hard as this. And it will produce excellent racing, I'm sure of it.
Certainly will, and it really is, as you say, good to see the competitiveness in FSR this year. Morgan Moran, he extended that gap quite a lot at the start and just put in a blinding first couple of laps, but since then he is still easing it out, but it's not as big a gap as big as an improvement over the gap as it was in the first couple of laps, but nevertheless it's
Indeed.
up to 3.1 seconds now, as Rob van Starkenburg just dropped back a little bit from Bono Huis now to the point where he's outside the DRS, so that will hurt him because of course Huis has got the DRS on Gosby, so he's going to be pulling away down the straights as they go through those DRS zones, so that might see Van Starkenburg drop back a little bit now.
Yeah, but looking at the lap times of Morgan Moran, it's nice to see his consistentness. His last 3 laps were almost exactly the same with identical sectors. So he's really managing the gap now and trying to get that perfect balance for tire wear and speed and get the optimum out of this stint.
Yeah, I mean, the second lap, I'm just looking back, was amazing. He did a 1:36.1, but we've got some action for Ville Lepper and Peter Berliak. And it's all getting messy around here. There's a lot of drivers fighting over. There's not enough room in there for all them. They do say too many cooks spoil the broth, and it's really close there down into turn 1. I think Antonio Kolarec is at the front of that. We've got Gergo Baldi, who's trying his best to make a breakaway. He doesn't want to be involved in this madness. Berliak is right up behind Kolarec, and then you've got Lepela behind Berliak, so this is going to be interesting. Van der Linden there, I think, in the background, running a little bit wide through turn 4. Berliak, can he get onto the back of Kolarec? It was very tight there down into turn 1. It just shows you how good these drivers are to be at that close quarters and not end up hitting each other. They did well there not to lose any parts on the car.
Yeah, and Baldi is in trouble. I see him struggling a lot with this stint, and we can see an attack move from Kolarec in the near future, I'm sure. And well, the other thing is Baldi cannot use DRS. Kolarec is in a 1 second gap. He can use it. Berliak is 1 second shy of Kolarec, so he can use DRS, and Lepela can too. So now coming up to the back straight, we will definitely see some action. Lepela coming up to Berliak. He's a little bit too far. He takes a peek but decides to wait for the next straight, and Berliak outbrakes himself. If you make this stick, Lepela, with a good exit, you might be able to dive inside, but I'm afraid for him, he's too far off.
Yeah, he certainly is. Adrian Rodriguez was also involved in this battle, but he ran wide through turn 12 on that last lap, and that has dropped him back from this. Gergo Baldi, as you say, it's surprising to see him struggling so much so early on. I mean, we've completed 6 laps, I think, now, Chris, but of course he's on the medium tyre, so that's surprising to see him struggling. It is,
and yeah, maybe it's 1 or 2 lockups that will cost you the tyre. It is really like this. I have been pointing it out quite often. But
just trying to go back to the front, Chris, sorry to interrupt you, but Martin Gosby has dropped down to 4th. Bono Huis is up into 2nd place, and Van Starkenburg is 3rd, so I can only imagine that Gosby has gone off the track somewhere. We'll try and get some information for you, if our cameraman managed to spot what happened to Martin Gosby, but he has dropped back from 2nd to 4th place.
Yeah, I didn't think he went off track, seeing his sector times. He did do a first sector of 33.2 last lap, so that might explain. I've just seen
the replay. It was in turn 2, and it was what we were talking about in qualifying. There, sometimes you need to switch up slightly early to get 3rd gear, otherwise you lose the traction, and that's exactly what he did. He nearly did a Sebastian Vettel and went off into the gravel. He managed to keep it on the track, but he spun it sideways, and obviously you lose momentum then, and that is where Huijs and Van Starkenburg got round him.
And because of that action behind Morant is now has been able to get 4.6 seconds off the second place Bono Huijs. But now Bono has some clear air, and we might be able to see the battle we have been talking about, well, for years now, between Morgan and Bono. So 4.6 seconds, it is a big gap, but let's see how that goes.
Yeah, it is a big gap, but it's nice to see that Bono Huijs is there. But of course, he has got a bit of a deficit to make up now. When you're stuck in the pack, you just lose that bit of time, and Moran has been able to stretch his legs a bit. And just looking down this battle for 11th, 10th place. Unfortunately, Baldi, whether he likes it or not, is getting dragged back into it. And Antonio Kolarec is really... And Kostadinov, I think, has just hit Ivar Kalames, we're just hearing. So there's... Dejan Kostadinov has had an incident with Ivar Kalames.
A lot of action in this early part of the race. Many drivers wanting to prove them. Dejan Kostadinov, don't see any sector times with him. He might have a problem there with his times, or he might have gone off the track, which might give him a drive-through penalty. I'm not sure. Something for the stewards to find out. Either way,
I think he just lost it under braking. I've just seen it into turn. It was in the turn 9 to 11 complex. He just under the brakes lost the front end a little bit and couldn't get it stopped, and just ran into the rear left wheel of Ivar Kalames rather. It'd be interesting to see whether Kalames suffers any damage from that, because in R Factor 2 you can get punctures from that kind of contact. I don't think that the contact was serious enough to warrant that, but we'll see. Kalames' sector times still look okay at the moment, but it has lost Kostadinov a couple of places. He spun out as a result of that, and he lost a place to David Greco. Luckily for him, Baldi was a little bit further back, so he's only lost the one position.
Yeah, Kalames is actually challenging De Wit now, and well, he made a good start. He started from 11th place, so he made up 4 places. Patrick De Wit is on the medium compound, just like Ivar, so there won't be any difference there. I would also like to point out that Bono is already 1.5 seconds shy of Rob Starkenburg, so he's pulling away from Rob with 1.5 seconds already. But still, Morgan is 10ths a lot faster, and he's increased the gap to 5 seconds now.
Yeah, he certainly has. It's interesting, Morgan Moran at the moment having quite an easy time of it, but don't forget that later in the race he'll have to go onto those medium tyres, and it'll be interesting to see how he copes that. Who will cope better of the front runners on those medium tyres? Morgan Moran's certainly quicker on soft tyres. Now, Ivar Kalames, he's in the DRS zone. Can he get in on Patrick De Wit? Well, as we said, those cars very fast down the straight. You could see Kalames' rear wing open up, and he has got a lot of speed, but not enough. De Wit still very quick down that straight. And the thing is, the DRS zone is the main source of overtaking FSR. Certainly not the only one, but nevertheless, if you can't overtake with the DRS, it does make overtaking very difficult. But Kalames is going to have a chance down here into turn 4, is he? No, not quite. But as I said, Chris, if you can't get past under the DRS, it becomes very difficult. But De Wit also struggling on medium tyres, interestingly. A big slide there.
Yeah, he is. And Gergo Balding losing it now, which allows Kolarec to take advantage of that. But Baldi is blocking. But he manages to still take this spot. Peter Briljak is taking a look. A lot of drivers fighting for those positions. And a lot of big names as well, driving for the 10th, 11th, 12th position, which I'm sure they are not used to, because Baldi was a front runner last year. And Briljak as well. I believe Briljak had a pole. I don't remember, but he was certainly fast indeed.
It certainly was, and it's interesting to see these drivers. It's just interesting as well. This is what we talk about. This illustrates it perfectly, because Gergo Baldi and Antonio Kolarec both started on the medium tyres, but you can visually see that Kolarec has looked after those tyres far better, because he's clearly much faster than Baldi, and you just feel that Kolarec will get past him at any moment now. Gergo Baldi is really struggling here on the medium tyres. I can only assume he had a lot of lockups in the early laps, because Kolarec, is he going to get down the inside into the last turn? Not quite, but you could imagine now that... Now the only problem is that maybe Antonio Kolarec would have been better off just sticking behind into that final turn, because now he's lost a bit of momentum as they go down the home straight. Can he get up the inside? Goodness me, I think they're going to go 3 wide here almost. No, Coleridge down the inside. Here we go. Is he through? They're close to banging. Oh, there's a big collision behind Van der Linden and Leppeler and Berliak all collided together. They got squeezed in the middle there. Van der Linden's up to 12th, and I think that Leppeler's got damage.
This is certainly not good for both of them. I don't know if we can get a replay of what happened, but that's certainly compromised each of their races. And Baldi now really struggling in 11th spot. He's really holding the guys behind him off. And Marcel van der Linden has got a problem. He's driving really slow and really controlled. Marcel van der Linden has got a technical problem with his car.
Yeah, he certainly has. He was just looking back at the replay, and it was a case of 3 into 1 don't go. They all tried to get in side by side into turn 1. And it looks like you can do that because it's quite wide on entry, but it narrows, and that's the problem. The corner narrows, and there just wasn't the room at the apex for them all to go into there. So Van der Linden collided with Leppeler, and Leppeler collided with Berliak. Be interesting to see if the stewards have a look at that later on. I hate to say it being obviously a driver for FTS, but it did look like Marcel van der Linden tried to go down the inside, and Leppeler had nowhere to go. He couldn't move further to the left because Berliak was already there. So Van der Linden, though, up into 12th for the time being. He seems to have picked up the pace a little bit now. Maybe he was just checking that everything was working. But Peter Berliak and Ville Leppeler both come into the pits now. Is that for damage or is it a scheduled stop?
Let's see about that.
Well, of course, we'll know by the amount of time that they spend in the pit stalls here. So Berliak comes into his pit stall. How long is the pit stop? That's the question. It's not very long, so that's Berliak, just for tyres.
Has a 5-second pit stop, so that's reasonable. And so does Leppeler. I don't think they try to repair the damage they suffered.
Obviously, so they obviously feel. Yeah, sorry, Chris. So they obviously feel the damage isn't significant enough to repair at the time being, but it might not be significant, but it may cost them a couple of tenths per lap, or maybe just a small amount over the course of the race, and that will add up to a big amount, won't it?
Yeah, it will, and they are obviously trying to get into clear air now to get some good times in the long stint.
Yes, Ville Leppeler has gone on to the medium tyre, so he's getting that stint out of the way now. Of course, you have to use both tyre compounds. It's the yellow sidewalls of the soft tyres and the white sidewalls of the medium tyres at this race. And Morgan Moran, by the way, has now got that gap out to 6 seconds. He's extended it by another second in the last few laps over Bono Huis. And interesting to see that they've not come into the pits yet on those soft tyres, so they're getting some good mileage out of those, Moran and Huis, towards the top, the furthest end that we said they'd get. We said somewhere between 6 to 14 laps, and they're still out there. They've completed 12 laps so far.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where when the first pit stops will occur.
And interestingly, Martin Gosby and Rob van Starkenburg have just both pitted, and van Starkenburg has jumped Martin Gosby in the pit lane. So good work there in the pit stall from the GT Omega boys. They've got him out ahead of Gosby's Twister Racing black car, but they're coming back into this battle with Antonio Coleridge. Now, of course, they're on cold tyres, are Van Starkenburg and Gosby. I'm just trying to see, they're both on the medium tyre as well. Coleridge is on the medium tyre, but his are up to temperature, although they do seem to be pulling away a little bit now, but they certainly don't want to get involved with that battle that we've seen is, well, it's quite hot back there in 10th and 11th place, isn't it, Chris?
Yes, it is, and it's interesting to see what other drivers near them before the pit stop will do now. Obviously they can choose to come in as well and stick with them, or they can try to make this stint last and jump them later in the race. Patrick de Witt, we cannot see him going into the pits after 12 laps with mediums. I think it's fair to say that we at least expect him to do another, let's say, 5 laps more than this. But he has been under a lot of pressure from Ivar Calames, who's already on the medium compound. So I'm curious to see who will give in there first.
Yeah, it's definite to say that Patrick de Witt, his lap times have been pretty consistent, and this is something that Patrick hasn't necessarily found easy in the past. Calames now coming into the pit.
Jack Keatley is in the pit indeed, so he will have.
So Keatley and Calames.
Oh, and there's a lock-up there in the pit as the other car of Precision is pitting.
Now,
yeah, and Ivar Calamees has to back up in the pit. Ivar Calamees overshooted his pit box and has to put the car into reverse. And he has a very long pit stop indeed. I believe he lost around 15 seconds there, Ivar Calamees. And as Marcel van der Linden comes in as well, and his stop is far from irregularly, and he goes out instantly.
Yeah, that's good from van der Linden, but Calamees, I mean, it's just going from bad to worse today for him. Didn't have a good qualifying, he's made up some places, and then Jack Keithley. I just wonder, we were talking about this earlier, Chris, we said Keithley could be a good contender if he could stay out of trouble. But the problem is, that could well be considered an unsafe release. Keithley obviously wasn't looking in his mirrors and came out right on top of Ivar Calamees.
Yeah, now let's hope Precision doesn't get a fine of 10,000 euros, because that would be always like in real F1. No, but that might be something for the stewards to look into. But for now, it's certainly not ideal for Ivar.
It certainly isn't. It was just interesting to note that the new tyres do make a big difference. Peter Berliak, who's back in 16th place, on the last lap he set the fastest Sector 1 of the race so far. So we can see that there are some cars now on those newer tyres and making progress. De Wit, by the way, is now third on those medium tyres, and he's been creating some pretty good lap times. I mean, I know he's 22.8 seconds behind Miranda and Huis. I don't expect that he'll be battling them later in the race.
Greco trying to pass De Wit into turn 1. He outbrakes De Wit. De Wit has to take the defensive line and let Greco pass. Brilliant move from Greco, and for the people who have some history, these two drivers don't have a really, well, let's put it, a green history between each other, so there's definitely some tense fighting going on there. But nice move from Greco.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly, I think, Chris. But yeah, they really they've not always been keen on each other. But that is a really important battle, that, because Greco and De Wit are on the same strategy. Oh, well, I thought they were. Actually, Greco seems to be on the soft tyres, and interestingly, from the timing screens that I'm looking at, it doesn't look like he's pitted yet. So that's a long way on those tyres. But of course, Moran and Huis not in either yet, so they're doing longer than we thought.
Well, Greco is up there from the talent. He might have made a mistake into qualify, but I have all the faith that he is one of the best sim racers out there. And yeah, it's not a surprise to see him in third. Also, I would like to point out Mr. Consistency at this moment. Definitely, that title is definitely going to Morgan Morant, who is pitting now. After 15 laps, all his laps were between 36.8 and 37.0. All his laps, and the majority 36.8. His lap times were really spot on, and he exits right before Bono Hughes is standing still for his regular pit stop. De Wit is jumping Hughes, and Morgan has a clean exit, so that might come to play in this stage of the race. What do you think?
I think it will, and more crucially, Bono Huis coming in later has not worked because he's behind Van Starkenburg and Gosby, who of course have already pitted. So that's for position. So Huis effectively fourth now, and it's really not going smoothly for him this race so far. He's having to do it the hard way to get on the podium. Patrick De Wit, though, at the head of this field. It's just interesting that De Wit's lap times have really tailed off on those medium tyres. And that's surprising because we're only 15 laps into the race. De Wit's obviously not used them too well. Greco's doing a lot better, and he's on the soft tyre at this stage. He still hasn't pitted. He's on his 16th lap now.
No, and something will definitely happen with De Wit now. If we can take a look at Van Starkenburg.
Yeah, here we go. Van Starkenburg.
He's going for the gap with the DRS open. He takes the inside line. Patrick De Wit on the outside. And squeezy move. There's an exit. No! A crash between Bono and Patrick De Wit.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, I don't think that was anything to blame on Patrick necessarily. As soon as you get out there on the marbles, it's so slippery, and he just lost the back end, and you could see him fighting to save the car, but he couldn't do it, and he went into the side of Bono Huis. Stewards might have a look at that, but I think it was just a case of getting out on the marbles and losing that grip.
That was a racing incident. Bono took that corner normally, but yeah, it's unfortunate to see a race incident as that, because it will definitely compromise Bono's race. Well, I would be surprised if he doesn't have any damage.
Yeah, Greco is in the pit lane now, so this is interesting. Now, the only trouble is, as De Wit comes in as well in the background, Greco is just starting to... He's dropped down to 10th, and staying out really out 11th, in fact. So I don't know whether really staying out that long on the soft tyres was really beneficial. I mean, it's very good that he can last 16 laps on the soft tyres, but the problem is you've got everybody behind you doing faster laps on newer tyres, and that now means that he's dropped out of the points and back down in 11th place. So you just wonder whether it was really worth staying out that long.
Indeed, and it's the same with Baldi, who has been in the 139s now and almost clinches the 140s. It's like, do you want to stick to your strategy and lose 2 seconds a lap the next couple of 5 or 10 laps, or are you willing to make that extra pit stop? It's always a compromise.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you've got to think about that, because the thing about these races these days with the different tyre strategies is that you often find that the race doesn't play itself out until right towards the end. That's when we find out where the drivers are going to finish. It really is very close right up to the end, just because of the way the rules work these days. Now, Patrick De Wit, watch out for him. Will he get back into the points? I'd like your opinions on that on YouTube, actually. Maybe we can send that out to you. Do you think Patrick De Wit will get back into the points? He's down in 17th at the moment. He's 12 seconds behind. Let's see how he can do.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. In the meantime, Coleridge is in the pits for his pit stop. I'm curious what tires he will choose. And David Greco is back into 10th position, and he jumps Coleridge. Coleridge will fall back a lot of places.
And he goes on to the medium tyre, so that's getting that one out of the way. They've got to use both tyres. This is his medium tyre stint. Bono Huis is setting pretty good lap times, actually, so he obviously didn't receive too much damage from Patrick De Wit. He's now just 4 tenths behind Martin Gosby. Yeah,
obviously that pit stop and the part after that didn't play out in his favour. It wasn't what he expected, but he's still in a reasonable position to claim a good spot on the grid. Having said that, the 11.5 seconds that Morant has over Rob van Starkenburg is really amazing, and well, I don't see any reason why it will stop growing at this stage of the race, considering the GT Omega in the second and the Twister in third and the Bonnehuis in the fourth will remain in battle with each other, and Morgan has clean air.
Yeah, of course, don't forget that these 3 behind Morgan Moran are on the harder tyre. Morgan Moran went for a second soft stint, so he still has to go on to the medium tyre, the harder of the 2 compounds, later in the race. Bono Huis not looking too clever in the DRS zone. He hasn't got a high top speed, but he's setting good lap times. Van Starkenburg seems pretty slow here. It has to be said, because they're all over him now. I think Carlos Martin has just come into the pits. He was up to 6th, actually, which is very impressive from near the back of the grid. So an impressive start there from Martin. He's dropping down the order now as he pits, but very close here. But Bono has just got to fight his way through here, and this is the problem, is he gets a wheel on the dirt there through turn 5 as he turned into the S-bends. He just put a wheel across the dirt. Well,
he's certainly taking the look on the inside of Martin Gosby, and of course from last year these drivers know each other, and it's nice to see them battling it out on the track. Martin is already going for a defensive line, but goes back on the racing line. And of course has the DRS as well, which he gets from being within the second of Rob van Starkenburg. And you can really see the effect of the dirty air coming into play. Both drivers behind Rob are holding back on their throttle, and it's important at moments like that to not go in fully to overheat the tires.
Yeah, it certainly is. Morgan Moran, by the way, had a very slow second sector, and I think he may have made a small mistake through that section that we were talking about as being very difficult through turn 9 to 11. I'm just trying to look back and find out what went wrong with him, because he lost about a second, and he ran too deep into that corner. And we've seen a lot of drivers doing that, Chris. It really is a tough corner, even for the very best.
It is, and it catches you out, and you have to be alert all the time. There's no moment you can relax driving these cars. It really takes the best out of you.
And now Dianka Stadanov has just got past Gergo Baldi down into turn 1. It was a DRS move down the straight, so an excellent move there from Dianka Stadanov, and that puts him up into 6th place. It's looking like a pretty good debut for Aventa SimRacing so far. Their first race in FSR, and they're running in 6th with Stadanov. Carlos Martin a little bit further down the order, but he's running in 16th, so that's certainly not embarrassing himself either. So a good debut for them so far, and Kostadanov up to 6th now, and can he catch Jack Keithley? He's got 11 seconds behind Keithley, so that's quite a gap to close.
It is quite a gap to close, and well, let's see with what driver can get the best out of their tires. Meanwhile, Baldi is still driving around and setting the lap times of 39.8, 39.7. Still in the 7th spot though, and he's trying to maybe do a one-stopper who would prove him wrongly.
Yes, it looks that way. Bono Huis again in the last corner. He just doesn't seem to be getting the run out that he needs. DRS opens, but through that last corner he was so close to Martin Gosby under braking, and then he just fell back a little bit, and as you can see, that creates the end of the straight. It means he can't get past Gosby into turn 1.
And if we go on board with David Greco, he will certainly give an attack on Gergo Baldi. David Greco is in the DRS zone and has the top speed advantage. Let's see, Baldi goes defensive. Greco dives into the inside and forces Baldi back to the left. And locks up a bit. Greco locks up and misses his apex. Leaves enough room for Baldi, but Baldi wasn't able to capitalize on that mistake of Greco. Greco takes the 2nd position.
Yeah, again, a couple of things there that were a little bit hairy. Gergo Baldi seemed to push David Greco a little bit towards the pit wall, and then Greco, on coming back onto the circuit, came right across Baldi's line, and Baldi had to hit the brakes, I think, because he's dropped back a little bit. Now he's in the clutches of Berliak.
Baldi doesn't have the confidence anymore after 20 laps with these tires, and it's more than logic. It's already an art driving, still driving like this. But Baldi is being looked at by Berliak. Berliak is wanting to get past here, and Baldi actually makes a mistake. Will Peter Berliak be able to capitalize on this mistake? Ooh, that's a tough line, Peter. And instantly losing a lot of tenths, but he's... Ooh!
Look at Calamise. Oh, they're 3 wide! 3 wide, incredible! And Calamise has taken them both round the outside. That is a tremendous move.
Brilliant move from Ivar Calamise, and how frustrating that would be for Peter Berliak. He was already losing time behind Baldi, and now he's being passed by Calamise as well.
And we've got to go back to the front. It's all going on. Bono Huis has got past Martin Gosby as well. He's up into 3rd place. And I think there was another DRS move down into turn 1, so Bono Huis recovering now from the fact that he made that late pit stop, and he is he's back up. Gergo Baldi has finally come into the pits, by the way. He's dropping down the order now. By the way, the question that we asked earlier on about Patrick de Wit getting back into the top 10, there was one quite harsh comment I felt on YouTube that they felt he'd get disqualified. I don't know whether that was for the incident earlier on or whether they feel that he's going to do something a bit later on, but I haven't seen anything so far to suggest that. Marcel van der Linden as well, interestingly, after his problems with launch control earlier on, is ahead of de Wit. De Wit now gets past Leppeler.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what will happen in the next few stages of this race. We aren't even halfway yet, and what an action it is on the World Championship race today.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's exciting. The thing is, we're not even halfway through it. I'm not sure if we'll see if our hearts can hold up to this, Chris, because it really, in the last few laps, is really starting to get very, very exciting indeed.
Yeah, and Marcel van der Linden is looking promising as well. After he had some tough laps, he started his stint with 35 of 35s, and he's now into the 38s, 37s on the soft tire. So he's really struggling on those. And Jim Pareses, who obviously had the first lap breakdown, he's finally caught up with... Oh, it's Baldi, I believe. Baldi pitted?
Yeah, Gergo Baldi came in on that last lap. He's down to 21st, so he's got a massive...
yeah.
I just feel that he stayed out too long, as you were suggesting earlier on, Chris.
Yeah, David Greco now into some clean air, and he's in 7th position. In 6th position is Dian Kostadinov from Eventa SimRacing. He has some clear air of 12 seconds to Jack Keithley, who is running 5th. So the top 5 are really, well, finding their places. At this moment, Bono is catching Van Starkenburg lap by lap, 10th by 10th. And I'm sure he's looking into taking 2nd spot. But Morgan Moran 16 seconds ahead of Rob van Starkenburg. Although it has to be said again, Rob is on the medium compound and Moran chose for another stint on softs.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had 3 retirements during the course of this race. Mark Alberts, the former World Championship race winner, unfortunately has DNF. Peter Helmbro of the Avid Chronic Racing team, another new team this year, had some suspension damage, and Luka Oslakovic as well. So we have lost 3 drivers over the course of this race, but generally speaking it's been pretty clean. As Carlos Martin is dropping down the order, I don't know if we've got another, he's not in the pits, so I think this is another retirement.
Yeah, that would be really unfortunate for. I'm trying to look on board with him, but it's not looking nice for him. He had a crash in lap 1 as well, and well, let's see what he can do.
He's popped back up now. I think it must have been a problem with the timing screens, because he was dropping down the order and he's now back up into 14th, which is where he was, so no problems with Carlos Martin. So the boss of Eventa SimRacing, if he's watching, he can start breathing again.
Yeah. And if we take a look on board with Bono, who is now within the 2nd margin which is needed to activate the DRS, he is coming up to that sector, and with a nice exit I'm sure he can get the gap even closer than that. It's going into that tricky left-hander where it's so easy to lock your brakes.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Morgan Moran's lap times, Chris. I know we've said already that he has to go on to the medium tyre later on, but the fact of the matter is that for a pit stop you need about 25 seconds around here. That's roughly what we expect to players to lose. Lepler and Martin are having a big battle here, and Martin's actually dropped behind Masciuli now. I think there might have been some contact there maybe.
And let's take a look into that.
And just looking back now, and Martin was trying to get up the inside into the S-Pens, and they had a big contact moment actually. And I think Ville Lepler lost a bit off his car. Carlos Martin would have had some rear damage as well. They collided with each other. I don't know if I really want to apportion any blame there. It did seem like Martin was on the inside, Lepler was on the outside, and there really isn't much room in that corner. And they did end up colliding together. That would be another one for the stewards to decide later on. But Carlos Martin, he's just weaving the car around a little bit, and I think he has got some damage. It does seem that he has.
Yeah, and at this moment there's about to be a battle unfolded between Bono Hughes and Rob van Starkenburg. Bono is angling him in lap by lap, corner by corner, and I'm sure it won't be long before Bono is going into the offensive and is trying to get that place.
Yes, meanwhile Morgan Moran has now got that gap up to 18.3 seconds. At the moment, if he pitted, he should come out comfortably in 4th place, which is amazing, and we just sees how good it is. Marcel van der Linden has passed Peter Berliak. So
yeah, let's watch on board with Bono. Bono is going for the 2nd place. Rob is not defending. It's like letting him through, and he finds himself in an understeer moment, and he slides the tires a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting there that there's obviously a sister team. By the way, Marcel van der Linden has spun because Peter Berliak had some contact with him. I think van der Linden just maybe thought that he was past Berliak on the outside of turn 4 and turned in, and Berliak's front wing made contact with his rear right tyre, and maybe van der Linden just didn't quite realise that he wasn't quite past Berliak at that stage.
Yeah, indeed. And Bono is off now. At the start of the last lap, he was 1 second behind Rob. Now he's 1 second in front. So he's really taking a launch. But with 19 seconds ahead to Morgan, it does seem when the race is almost at halftime that the gap is a bit high. It's half a second a lap. So.
Keithley has been in the pits again. Jack Keithley, he has come in for the medium tyres, so he's done 2 stints on the soft. Now he's on the medium. Now this is interesting because Patrick de Wit, where is de Wit? He's a bit behind, I think. And that's because, of course, de Wit is on the soft tyres and he's done his stint on the medium tyre. So that will be an interesting battle that may develop as the race goes on, because Keithley is now on the worst tyre, of course.
Yeah, but if Keithley is on medium now, if he had 2 stints on soft, which he lasted 12 laps with, which is reasonable, I don't think it's fair to say he will do 32 laps now with medium when he did 12 with soft. So I'm sure Keithley will stop again.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I think Patrick will as well. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how many more stops they have to do each. Will that be a battle later on in the race? Because we did mention, of course, de Wit has already been on the medium tyre. The only problem is that with Patrick de Wit is that medium tyre stint, was it really long enough? Because there is a possibility that from here, if he's going to do softs all the way, that he'd have to make another 2 stops.
Indeed. And now for the 14th position, Peter Briljak is coming up to Adrian Rodriguez. Peter can obviously use the DRS next turn, and he's looking for a great exit to find as much top speed. Here we go. On board with Peter Briljak. Will he get the 14th position? Adrian Rodriguez does not defend and chooses to not waste that much time battling it out and lets Peter through. So good move, makes it stick. Nice move, Peter Briljak.
Yeah, it certainly was. And Briljak, of course, now up into 14th place. He's quite a long way off the points, though, which is, I'm surprising a little bit, because I thought Briljak would be a lot further up than this. You saw that, of course, he was, I think he was the champion of Ace last year, as it is now.
Yes, he was. And well, now he's into World Championship and certainly looking strong. I am curious to see what will happen between Keithley and Patrick. Obviously, Keithley just pitted, if I remember correct, for the medium compound, and Patrick is still on softs. The gap is only 3 seconds, so let's see what happens there.
Yeah, Patrick de Wit's certainly trying to catch him. On that last lap, de Wit was actually 3/10 faster than the race leader, Morgan Moran. So he's certainly giving it a very good go. He's 3 seconds behind Keithley at the moment, but Keithley and de Wit will both be catching up to Calamise and Greco as well, who are having their own little battle for 6th place. So expect that to develop into a 4-car battle within 4 to 5 laps' time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ivar is on the soft compound, and both Greco and Kostadinov are on medium. It seems, if we just look at the pure pace, that Kostadinov has the least fastest pace of this 3-pack. But let's see. You can choose great defensive lines in Air Factor 2, and the dirty air makes it really hard to overtake in the middle sectors. And now coming out of the pit is there Martin Gosby.
Oh! Oh, Gosby and Kostadinov, that was very close indeed. I think they made a little bit of contact.
It's still not over yet. Martin on the inside tries to outbrake Kostadinov. Can Kostadinov come underneath? No, he makes the move stick. Great move that was.
Certainly was. I think they're probably heart in the mouth a bit there, though, for the Twister Racing and Eventer SimRacing boys. And now Kostadinov will come under attack from Greco, of course, because he wasn't that far ahead, and he's now lost a little bit of time while Gosby was overtaking him. So Greco is all over the gearbox. Can he get up the inside? Going to be difficult down into turn 9, 10, 11, I think. Yeah, indeed, but he's got the DRS now, of course.
It was essential for Gosby to get past, but because on fresh tires he did not want to get stuck behind a driver with older tires. So really good for him that he made it stick. Now indeed Greco with Kostadinov.
Yeah, absolutely. Although Kostadinov seems to have got himself back going again now, and it's just pulled away a little bit from Greco. The problem being, of course, that they're now 2 straights. So this is where Greco, if he can get in the slipstream, may well manage to get some time back. I'm just going to point out as well, actually, we were talking about Jim Paresis, who had an excellent qualifying. He had that damage on lap 1 where he lost the front wing, and since then he's not really made much progress because he's still down in 20th place as Martin Gosby comes into the pits.
Sorry to interrupt, Baldi spins in 21st position, and I believe he is out of the race. He tries to come back, he's in the gravel, but he seems to be stuck. He keeps going again, but he's already one lap down. After a promising start from Garibaldi, it seems to be all ending in tears. Really unfortunate for him.
That's a shame. Gosby has just been into the pits again, which I can only presume means that he did get some damage from that incident with Kostadinov. It did look like they made some pretty heavy contact through turn 2 and 3, or it could have been a penalty. We're not sure on that yet. Maybe a penalty was handed out for him for the way he came back onto the track, almost Maldonado style. But he's down to 12th now after having to pit again.
And Keithley is really battling hard with Greco and Kostadinov. There's 3 guys there fighting on one bone, but who will come out on top? They both have DRS. Kostadinov cannot defend with DRS, and I'm sure David Greco will try to find the little bit of the little tents, the upcoming corners, to get into DRS range and to pass him on the straight.
We're having some more problems with Carlos Martin's transponder on his car because he's dropping down the order again, but he's not been off the circuit as far as I can see. So I think that once again is just a problem with the timing. That usually is a problem with the lag as well on the server. So it'd be interesting to see if he can remain connected and there aren't any electrical failures for him as the race goes on. Let's hope not. So what the worst thing you want to see to a driver. And Greco now in the DRS zone, but I don't think he's close enough, but he's getting quite close, but no, not quite. And as you said, Chris, Jack Keithley just behind now.
Yeah, he's maybe looking for a mistake, and he maybe is thinking, okay, I got the guys in front of me battling. Maybe if they make a mistake, I can take advantage of that. And that is who is there outside of the track. Someone stopped.
Yeah, but Bono Huis, I'm not sure. Huis has just been off the circuit. I think somebody just...
Oh, it was Baldi. It was Gergo Baldi. Baldi has serious issues with his car, and I think he will retire any moment. Sad to say, but it's not looking good for him. Anyway, back to the pack. Martin Gosby, Peter Briljak are gonna see each other very soon.
Yeah, just looking at Martin Gosby's lap times, we haven't had a full lap time from him since he pitted. The first sector, though, is very good. So Greco's lost a place. I just saw somebody go off at turn 11 as well. I think that was one of the Eventer SimRacing cars.
I'm trying to look into it.
I think it was Carlos Martin. Carlos Martin, I think, ran slightly deep into turn 11. Yes, he did. Got completely out of shape and lost a place to Ivar Calames. And David Greco has lost a place to Jack Keithley as well. Keithley now up into 5th place. And Bono Huis in the pits.
Yeah, Bono Huis just pitted. He comes out back of Rob van Starkenburg.
Yes, so Rob van Starkenburg has pitted as well, hasn't he, already? So once again, Bono Huis pitting later has lost the position again. So it seems maybe he's just decided that he wants to have a bit of practice overtaking today, and he seems to be consistently losing places in pit stops.
Yeah, but they have to pit again. Bono is on the soft tyre, and I don't think he will last 27 laps. I would be amazed if he did, and you would never underestimate the 4-time world champion of Formula Sim racing. But 27 laps, it's a hard task, but a high reward if he manages to pull it off.
Yes, it certainly is. Morgan Moran, by the way, on that tyre. He's got to go onto the medium tyres still, remember. He hasn't done that yet, but he's 36 seconds ahead. And
Morgan
even when he pits, that's going to give him an 11-second lead on those medium tyres, which you would think, even with the slower tyre, it would be more than possible to control that.
Yeah, more than possible. It's a lead that's out of proportion at this moment.
Martin Gosby's going down the outside of Carlos Martin. He's going around the outside into turn 12, and he makes it stick. Wonderful move under the DRS there. Just showed the DRS in action and Carlos Martin looks to be going very slowly indeed, in fact. But Gosby there now up back into the points after what may have been a penalty. That we're not sure at this point. Martin off the track again, really struggling now with those tyres. I think he definitely needs to pit this lap because clearly he's run them into the ground.
Yeah, and Jack Keithley indeed switched places with Greco, and Greco now behind Keithley, trying to look for that extra bit of pace in order to get back of them. But it seems like Greco is losing out. on the GT Omega of Jack Keatley and Kostadinov in the Aventa.
Yeah, Patrick de Wit has been into the pits again. Don't forget, he did his medium tyre stint earlier on, so he's probably got one stop to go as well now. I can't imagine that. I think he's on the soft tyres again, so definitely going to need another stop, I think. He comes back out in 13th. Oh, he's on the medium.
He's on the medium tyre, so 26 laps on the medium seems possible, but time will tell.
I think that's doable, and that means possibly then that Patrick de Wit is now going to the end of the race. That's interesting then. So de Wit opting for a different strategy because he has been on his second medium stint now. Morgan Moran, by the way, is now in the pit lane.
He is in the pit, and it's interesting to see what tyres he will choose. He will choose the medium tyres, so I believe that's the 25 laps he will do. He will not stop again, but he will have the luxury to stop again if needed. So let's hope for him and the Crown 7 Netrix that nothing goes wrong. For the GT Omega of Rob van Starkenburg, there's everything to hope for that something goes wrong, because the gap is even after the pit stop 31 seconds.
I don't think it's quite 31 seconds. We'll just see when they come through the first sector, but it's certainly larger than I suspected. Obviously, the pit stop's not quite taking 25 seconds here. We'll see when they come through sector 1. What the gap is now from Moran to Van Starkenburg.
Oh yeah, my bad, sorry.
That's no worries. And Kolarec is also in the pits, by the way, with the Venus Project racing car. It's 12.5 seconds then that Moran now has over Van Starkenburg after that pit stop. Van Starkenburg at the moment as well, controlling the gap over Bono Huis.
Yes, and Bono is heading to Valeriano, which is a back marker. Valeriano going out of the racing line, doing that very professionally. And of course he has to. Bono is looking to Rob van Starkenburg and is thinking, what are you doing in my second place? Again, after a pit stop I want it back. So I'm sure he's pushing the maximum of his car and the tires to get back at Rob. And they will pit again, and if the same scenario happens, then... And Jack Keatley is now pressuring Dejan Kostadinov for the 4th place. So those two are still fighting hard.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's just, you'd expect Keatley to get past Kostadinov, who's having a great run on the debut race for Aventa SimRacing, and they would love to finish in the top 5, wouldn't they, on first time out? That would be impressive. De Wit, by the way, is making his way back through the field. He's up the inside of Masciuli. Oh, just about. Masciuli runs off the track. I think he saw De Wit coming and thought, there's no way I'm getting involved in that. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, let's see what happened there. Yeah, nothing to blame to Patrick though. Masciuli just thought, okay, I want to finish this race and I don't want any risk.
Yeah, he was always frightened off the track there, but there's certainly nothing wrong with what De Wit did, but just shows you that Patrick de Wit, he was determined. Sorry
to interrupt, but Kostadinov got overtaken by Jack Keatley, who is now steady in 4th position. And I don't know if Kostadinov has the answer to the Omega. But Greco is closing into Kostadinov now as well, so we might see a 3-way battle again.
Yeah, we may indeed, and it's just great. Greco has had a good race there for Twister Racing. He's the highest of the Twister cars, actually. There are 4 Twister Racing cars in this race, the Twister Racing Team and Twister Racing Black, but Greco the highest of them, which is interesting actually, because the Twister Racing Black cars both qualified very well, but they've had their various problems. Paresis on the first lap lost his front wing, and Martin Gosby, we know, had that contact and then what we think may have been a penalty that has dropped him all the way back to 8th. So it's not been the greatest of days for Twister Racing Black. Bono Huis, by the way, is closing in on Rob van Starkenburg, but the interesting thing is that Bono Huis, I think, lost a couple of tenths on that lap to Morgan Moran, and Moran is on the medium tyre, Huis is on the soft.
Yeah, absolutely stunning performance from Moran. And it's also, because he was in the lead the entire race, he should have the best tyre management. He didn't have any pressure except apart from the early laps of the race. So he has had the opportunity to drive constant and do not risk any moves. And yeah.
Yeah, Jaakko Stadanov has just been into the pits and he's changed onto the medium tyre, so he too will be going to the end. Similar stint to De Wit, who is De Wit ahead of him. Van der Linden is. That's Van der Linden. Oh, that was a bit close. Stadanov, he had a focusing moment there. Did he cross the white line? It looked very close.
I don't know. It might be. And of course, on this track, it's possible he could get an automatic drive-through penalty or anything like that.
Just looking at it again. No, I think he was okay. He was very close though. He just lost traction and got the back end out, and you don't want to be doing that when you're in that pit exit, because if you cross the white line, of course, it's a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, it is. And Kostadinov now in 10th place.
Yes, we've got Bono Huis on Van Starkenburg as well. It's difficult to know what to focus on at this point, but I think Bono Huis is really applying the pressure now to Rob Van Starkenburg. He's coming down the back straight, and if he can get a good run out of the final corner in the DRS zone, you would say that he's going to have a great chance of getting into second place down into turn 1. Now, this is important. Can he get out of the final turn well? It's not bad, but he's not been fantastic through that final turn. He just seems to have a little bit of trouble there, but he's close enough, I think.
And Van Starkenburg with the defensive line, Bono already passed him, and Rob just lets him pass.
Yeah, very sorry there. I was checking a replay earlier on, and I was about 20 seconds, a few seconds behind there. So thanks to Chris for making up for that one for me.
That's nothing to worry about. At this moment, Ivar Kelemees is. Well, he personally must be really looking forward to join the pack in the battle. He has been starting from 11th position and does now find himself into 5th place. He does, however, have to get another pit stop, because with 22 laps to go, his soft tires are already a few laps old. So we will see a lot of drivers coming in the pit, but Marcel van der Linden now in the faster than speed on 8th place. He overtook Dejan Kostadinov, who is on the medium compound, Marcel being on the softs. Marcel is flying at this stage.
It's interesting to see as well that different strategy between the two faster than speed drivers, because of course De Wit going to the end on the medium tyres, Van der Linden trying something a little bit different. We'll expect to see him pit again, and he'll be on the soft tyres again for that final stint, because, well, with the amount of laps left before the end of the race, I should imagine that it would be the only sensible decision. It really depends on where he can get to here. If he can get to about lap 42, lap 43, we have seen drivers going that distance, so that should be about the right time to come in. So about another 6 laps he needs on these tyres.
Indeed. And at the early stages of the race, we saw David Greco still in 2nd position when Bono made his pit stop together with Van Starkenburg. But at this moment, Greco is 11th, and he's losing out a bit. He's challenging Patrick De Wit for a 10th spot, so there could have been some action right now. He certainly gets the DRS. And like we mentioned earlier, these guys know each other for years and have had some tough battles. David is looking off the inside of De Wit, and De Wit is sliding around a bit. Can David find the momentum to pass him here? What will Patrick do? He's defending, he's leaving enough space. David on the outside. Tries to take the inside line. Fantastic driving from Greco here.
Yeah, very fair from Patrick De Wit as well. We talked about the fact that they've had the... Oh, De Wit's off! And he just locked up and he tried not to run into Greco, took avoiding action, and has lost a place now to Antonio Kolarec as well, the Croatian who's got past in the Venus Project racing car and is now challenging Greco. Kolarec having some really good pace at this stage in the race.
And he does have DRS now, so it's interesting to see if he can get close enough to get DRS again on the main straight. And it's really important for him to keep these corners nice and tidy. Alright, back to the leader in the race. Morgan Morant is cruising around with a 15-second lead over Precision Motorsports Bono Huis, who has yet to stop again. And I'm not sure Morgan has to. With 20 laps to go, Morgan Morant, his tires are 2 or 3 laps old compared to the tires of Bono.
I'm just looking at Morgan Morant pitted on lap 33 24 laps on medium tyres. That should be possible. There's a car off ahead of him. Oh,
scary moment there.
I was just wondering if that car was going to come back on in front of Morgan Moran, but no, he did keep out of the way, so that was okay. Good job he checked his mirrors before he got back on. That would have been a lot of paperwork to do after the race if that had been a collision.
Yeah, and I think there would be a nuclear explosion somewhere in Paris tonight, but no, fortunately for both parties that didn't happen, and he's ready to take the lead into the 38th lap of this race.
Yeah, it certainly is. That will have woken Morgan Moran up, I think, a little bit, because he's been way ahead, and then you just have one of those moments where your heart's in your mouth when you see a back marker coming back onto the track, but luckily enough, it didn't come back on right in front of him. David Greco is still got Kolarec in the DRS zone behind him, so Kolarec making some good pace, and of course that's a battle for a point-paying position, so that's very important. The Venus Project Racing, one of the smaller teams in FSR, and they would love to get a point.
I'm sure they would. It's really challenging to get a point here, and well, if you see the names in the top 10, it's easy to see why. Talking about the top 10, David Greco Dion Kostadinov just let go of Marcel, but Marcel is pitting now from 9th position, and he will make his last pit stop of this race if he's going to medium.
Yeah, sure, he's got to go to medium, surely.
He's on the soft. He's going on to softs again. Marcel van der Linden is sure he can make 19 laps out of this last stint. Let's keep an eye on that. He rejoins the track in 15th position. Careful about the white line, Marcel, but that's not an issue for him.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he can make it to the end of the race on those tyres in 19 laps, I think we'll all send him a trophy, because that will be incredible. The most we saw earlier on in the race, of course, on the heavier fuel, about 15 laps. But that is going to be a big task to extend that another 4 laps and possibly go to 19 laps on that distance. We've had a couple of more retirements since Gergo Baldi, by the way. There's 20 cars now left in this race. Zuhats Kaibo, unfortunately, has retired with suspension damage, and Giordano Valeriano has also retired with a brake failure, which is obviously the testing for Chronic Racing Team. They don't have as many drivers as the big teams have, so they can't do as much testing because there's more drivers to test things, of course, at the bigger teams. And there they've made a bit of an error with how long the brakes last, because they've run out with 19 laps to go.
Yeah, and it's also to get the heat off the tire, off the brakes when you apply them on. If you lock your brake and the temperature goes up to the 1000 degree scale, the next corner will follow again, and you have to brake again. So it's really hard once you overdid it, and that's the accuracy and the precision you need to be competitive in this league. You don't just step in and drive around. As easy as it might look, these drivers are performing at a really high level of competition here.
They certainly are. Carlos Martin has just got past Eros Masciuli, and Kostadinov, I think, has passed Peter Berliak as well. You look away for just a couple of seconds and everything's changed. It's incredible in FSR at the moment. So there we've had another couple of overtakes. It's just interesting. I'm just trying to see if there's any more thing else going on the grid. I don't think there is, because Kostadinov has just got past Berliak on fresher tyres, so I wouldn't imagine that Berliak could come back at him. Carlos Martin, I'm just watching in 13th place, had a big moment there, down into turn 8. And nearly went flying off the circuit. He's had a few moments today, but he's up in 13th place. It's not bad.
No, it's not bad, and he's making a nice, well, I shouldn't say debut in WC, but the race debut from the start of the season at least. He has his fastest lap of 34.5, so he can certainly do it, but the consistency is lacking at this moment. But we don't know what the damage is in his car. He obviously had to crash into turn 1, lap 1, so...
Well, Martin Gosby has come in for his final pit stop, and he also is going on the soft tyres. So obviously teams feel that they can, at this low fuel range, get the tyres to the end of the race. He'll drop down the order. It's just interesting actually to know, somebody was just mentioning on the YouTube chat that Martin that Bono Huis, sorry, is catching Morgan Moran. Well, yes, he is, but bear in mind that Bono Huis is probably going to have to pit again because he's on the soft tyres and has been for a little while now. And Morgan Moran is on the medium tyre and may not have to pit again. So effectively, you can increase that to about 34, 35 seconds.
Yeah, I think you can put your money on the fact that Bono has to stop again and Morgan won't stop again. If drivers are choosing to do 17 laps or even 20 laps with softs, I'm sure Morgan can do 27 with mediums.
Yeah, and the thing is, we'd expect Bono to be catching Morgan because he's on the quicker tyres. We've got Gosby on collar etch here. He's right up behind him as they go into the DRS zone on the back straight. Now he can get the DRS open, and I don't think Martin Gosby had the DRS open there. It didn't look like he did, and he didn't really gain that much time down the straight. I didn't see the rear flap open, so that's interesting.
Well, let's see. He's still in range for another attack on the straight. He got the advantage of the fresh tires, of course, so fresh tires do make the difference.
Yeah, and here goes Martin Gosby. Not quite. Ivar Kalamies is in the pits for Precision Motorsports, so he is now making what will be his final stop. Gosby runs wide on the exit of the final turn, but I don't think it's going to matter. He's in the DRS zone and surely will get past Kolarec down into turn 1. There's a battle between the Twister cars ahead as well as Greco got past Berliak. Yes, he has. So 2 overtakes there in the one corner in front and behind, and Kalamies slots himself back into that.
Kalamies enters the track before Gosby, so he won that battle fair and square, that pistol battle, but is now facing the gearbox of Peter Briljak and David Greco in 6th place. So a lot of battling here going on for the back top 10 spots.
Yeah, it certainly has. Don't forget, of course, Martin Gosby did have that penalty earlier on, so that's why he's behind Kalamies, but let's see if Kalamies can get past.
Indeed, let's go on board with Ivar Kalamies and see what this battle will bring us. With a good exit, he might be able to jump Greco here. Briljak. Twister team in 6th and 7th position. And Gosby past Ivar. Ooh, they're battling it out side by side into the turn. And Martin gets the best out of him.
Yeah, he certainly does. That was very, very close there, but Kalamies just didn't get a good exit out of turn 11.
Martin dives on the inside.
Yes, so Gosby gets 2 positions very quickly, and Peter Berliak ran wide. I just wonder if his tyres are going away. Our cameraman is just telling us that Ivar Kalamies sounded like he lost throttle for a split second or so. Let's hope that's not an engine problem developing, because either that or maybe the pedals are coming loose, I don't know, but you don't want that. He looks okay now, but that maybe explains why Gosby got him down the straight. Oh! Greco rounds wide.
And he's certainly getting the pressure now from Gosby, who's going on the inside. Greco can't defend this. Oh, and contact between the two. And Martin is fast.
Great recovery drive this from Martin Gosby. He was down to 12th.
And Kalamies passed Greco too. Great David Greco, just like Peter Briljak, losing 2 positions in one corner, effectively. And this is not how he would have planned it. But Patrick de Witt now is only a few seconds shy from David Greco, 4 seconds. And those two have met each other a lot today on the track.
Certainly have. It just seems like they've got magnets attracted to each other. They just seem to keep coming in against each other, and again here they're going to be brought together. I think de Witt will catch Greco because Greco's struggling now on those tyres. Berliak has actually, his teammate, been in the pits. He was also struggling with tyres, so it'd be interesting to see now if de Witt can keep catching Greco. He's got the gap down to 3.9 seconds, so we'll see if that gap continues to catch as time goes on.
Indeed, and Bono Huis is driving steadily in the front pack with doing lap times 35 once in the last 7 lap times, next to some few tenths off. And I'm curious to see if and when he's going into the pit again. And compared to Morgan, who's already also doing 35 mids, 35 fives, well, anything anything can still happen.
Keithley and van der Linden, sorry to cut across you, Chris, that was very close in turn 1. Jack Keithley has just pitted and Marcel van der Linden was determined to get round the outside, and he has. And that was Calamise has passed Gosby as well. We've heard there's been some contact there as well. So a lot going on, but van der Linden just round the outside of Keithley as Keithley came back on out of the pits, and Jack Keithley they're showing Pastor Maldonado how he should have done it last weekend.
Indeed,
just
well
making
said.
sure van der Linden had enough room to get into turn 1.
Yeah, but this was all fair and square indeed, and this is how Pastor should have done it. But,
And Bono Huis in the pits, Chris.
Bono Huis in the pits right now. Interesting to see. Well, it's fair. It's fair to say that he will go to softs for the remainder of the 13 laps, but. Rolf van Starkenburg is jumping him yet again, I believe. Coming out to the pits, Bono Huis. And this will be tense. No. Seconds off. Bono will remain on second place, and Rolf van Starkenburg in third. Steady of promising performance from Rolf, being the third place driver here. If you have to compare him to Jack Keithley, who obviously had some problems during this race, but he is driving around in 10th place. And these drivers are sure, in qualify they were evenly matched.
Yeah, certainly the case, and we talked, as we said earlier on, of course, Keithley getting involved in a couple of incidents in this race, and we're still yet to see whether he'll get any penalty for the release in the pit lane that we saw earlier on. When he nearly hit, I think it was one of the sister team cars as well. So he may have some explaining to do to the management as well as the stewards.
Yeah, let's see what happens there. But
anyway, we've seen Jack Keithley now. He's all over the back of Marcel van der Linden. We've also got Calamise on Kostadinov, very close.
Yeah, let's go on board with Ivar for a moment and see what he can do to take. 4th place from Kostadinov. Kostadinov obviously wants to keep this place, as there's no sight for a podium. 4th is next best, of course, and every position counts here. Now, a not so nice exit of Ivar. I'm sure he will be in range for DRS, but will it be enough? Because Gosby is also on the inside, trying to take the spot from Ivar.
And remember that when Calamise overtook Gosby a couple of laps ago, there was some contact, so a bit of needle there between those two, especially Gosby, of course, last year was an effective teammate of Calamise. They both ran under the same stable, but look at Calamise down into turn 1. Not quite. And the problem is now that he's had to brake a little bit, and will that give Gosby a run? No, it won't, because Gosby got out of shape in turn 1. And now Calamise is going to have a go at Kostadinov down into turn 4. Can he get up the inside? This is going to be the chance, is it? No, not quite.
No, and by going back to the outside, Kostadinov told them there with racing language, I'm going to get this corner in a normal way. You better not dive me there. And Ivar clearly understood this and is trying to look into the next DRS zone to see if he can take the spot. Martin Gosby also trying to get a good exit here to get the guys in front of him.
Yeah, he is, and it's interesting to see that Jack Keithley, after coming out, has not really made much of an impression on the two FTS cars. Van der Linden still ahead of him and still the same distance. Here goes Calamise. Has he got it? Oh, that's tight. You always hold your breath when they make a move through that corner because it is so tight on the entry, but Calamise has made it stick and he's up into 4th position. He's not going to catch Van Starkenburg, I don't think, because that is a big gap in front of Van Starkenburg. Can Gosby get up the inside of Kostadinov? Now he's going to have a move. Kostadinov suddenly has got his mirrors full of cars, and Gosby is going to get up the inside into the final turn. The trouble is, though, did he get ahead before the DRS line? Because if he did, then Kostadinov is going to have the DRS now.
I'm going to see if Kostadinov's DRS is going open, and it's open. DRS open for Kostadinov. Can he make an answer to that moment? Gosby is choosing the defensive line. It's moving a bit back on the braking, but leaves Kostadinov plenty of space to go around. But it's saying to Kostadinov, this corner is mine, you better take 6th place.
Yeah, he is. It's just interesting though, Chris. Martin Gosby, of course, still a very young driver. And you do wonder if maybe there was a little bit of lack of experience there. Maybe with some of the experienced drivers, you'd see them maybe hold back on the move until the DRS zone, because he just gave Kostadinov there a chance, just a glimmer of getting back past, because Kostadinov had the DRS, because he passed him before the detection point, which maybe just because he's a young driver, Gosby, he wants to make those moves so quick. Would it maybe have been better just waiting one corner more?
He might be young, but he knows what he's doing, and he's experienced enough to make the right call, I believe. And I'm curious to see what he can pull out of the hat, out of the magic hat, the next couple of 10 laps, because they are both on relatively fresh tires, both on softs. So we could see a battle between Ivar and Gosby, and of course Gosby, who I believe got fired out of Precision, or at least left Precision this year. He's sure to make a point to Precision that they made the wrong choice of sending him away.
Yeah, of course he does. He wants to do that. And there's an interesting battle developing for 8th place here, because Marcel van der Linden has caught his teammate, the more experienced Patrick de Wit. And he's going to be in the DRS zone here, and Jack Keithley's taking an interest in this as well. He might just sit back and watch the fireworks. Oh, van der Linden very out of shape out of the final turn, and that might give Keithley a run, will it? Oh, it's still a good exit, actually. He did well there.
But they have to be smart here. The FTS drivers have to be smart and don't lose enough of a lot of time. But Marcel is diving, locks the brakes, and clearly wants that spot. Patrick being under attack by Jack Keithley the same second. Will Keithley make this move stick? Patrick defends the out of inside. Jack tries to come across him, but doesn't get the traction provided, and they make contact. They're lucky to not spin there. Close racing here, really close.
Close. I think it was just about there. It was hard, but it was racing, but Patrick de Wit sliding back. Van der Linden's taking off. He's happy that these two are battling, because it means that he can get a bit of a distance between himself and Keithley, because you would imagine that Keithley will get past eventually as de Wit locks up into turn 11. Really seems to be struggling now, Patrick de Wit, on those tyres. We said that he'd certainly go to the end. Maybe he won't, because there's still another 9 laps to go. So this strategy may be not working out for Patrick. No, they've made contact. Keithley's off. Keithley's off, and he just lost it under braking, Jack Keithley, and hit the back of Patrick de Wit. And once again, Jack Keithley makes a mistake that's lost him quite a bit of time. I don't think de Wit braked particularly early. I think it was just a case that Keithley, maybe because of the DRS, he had the extra speed going into the corner, and he just didn't brake enough.
Oh, that was certainly unfortunate, and it's only to hope for Patrick that he doesn't have a puncture for this. I see he is struggling a bit with the car, but that's also the insecurity, I think.
Yeah, but, Marcel van der Linden, Chris, has caught Jan Kostadinov.
He is, and what a sign from him after he was on the back of the pack in the middle of the race.
Yes, amazing, really. Remember, van der Linden had that problem with the launch control at the start and dropped from his 12th place qualifying position. He was down to 18th at one point, but he is now...
This could have consequences as well, because I didn't see him starting with launch control. I don't know if he actually did, but if he didn't, the stewards might take a look at that, but that would be really bureaucratic rubble, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. I suppose it depends on why the launch control was not working, because the problem is if it was that Marcel simply forgot to assign a control on his steering wheel for it, then almost certainly he will get a penalty. If it's a case that control stopped working for whatever reason, then maybe they will say that, well, you know, that he couldn't do anything about it. I suppose it's something for the stewards and van der Linden to discuss, but the problem is the stewards can't, if van der Linden says, oh, it was a problem with the control and it failed, how can the stewards test that? They can't really, so they may have to give him a penalty anyway.
Yeah, it's really something to look after the race. Ville Lepela just retired with brake problems. His brakes are have collapsed. So that's unfortunate to see. Yeah,
that's a shame, and I can imagine that Pedro Rodriguez, the team manager of Go Speed Racing Team, is sitting in a corner crying by now, because it really hasn't been a good day for Go Speed Racing. Blair Disley down in 19th, well 18th now of the 19 runners, and Lepela with brake failures. There's going to be no points for Go Speed today, and they were a front-running team last year. Just shows you what a difference a year can make.
Yeah, and the season is young. Obviously, also in real Formula One, some teams are not living up to the expectations, like Lotus. But it's not proving that they don't have the capability. And I think GoSpeed will recover soon from this. They know what they're doing. They have been long in FSR, and they will recover soon. But it's nice to see some hustling around in the order of the racing, like we were used to last season. At this moment, Peter Briljak is trying to take 9th place from Patrick, and if he makes this move stick here, with the DRS, he can certainly pass the width.
Yeah, they certainly can, and Briljak round the outside, and I don't think you're ever going to be, Patrick's never going to let you go down the outside. He's quite frosky about you coming up the inside. Here goes Briljak, he's managed to go round the outside, but it's not going to happen. As Patrick de Wit, as I say, he's not the type of driver who'd be too keen on getting overtaken around the outside.
Now, Patrick de Wit has years of experience and has won a race win under his belt in 2007, which is, I believe, in the last millennium. We have been around so long now, and he's continuing on to show he's still got it in himself.
Yeah, I'm not sure Patrick will thank you for that. It makes him sound very old. Briljak is going down into turn 1 and round the outside. Oh,
that's a nice move from Peter, but Patrick managing to get back at him because Peter outbraked himself, but definitely a nice try from him. Keithley overtook Briljak after he outbraked himself. Now Peter wants that place back, but Keithley has the better tires out of this set, and I would not be surprised that Keithley would pass the width within a few corners.
Yeah, it's interesting, and Patrick de Wit, as he fights for everything, he will not give up these places. He wants points, and he's not going to give these up. He knows he's got 6 laps to go. He doesn't care. He's going to fight for everything, and even on those shot tyres, as they seem to be by now, he is not going to let them pass easily. He's got a big queue behind him now, though, Patrick de Wit, Keithley, Briljak, and Kolarec, all there wanting that point, and they're going to fight over it. And Briljak looking at Keithley.
And with the tension between drivers now building at the end of the race, everyone wants those few extra spots. Some drivers might overdo it and lock up their tires, lock their brakes too much, and maybe we see some surprising DNFs. Let's certainly not hope for it, but I would certainly not be surprised if there was going to be something like this.
He certainly is.
Briljak now is trying to go have a great exit or a maneuver on Keithley, but Keithley is looking at the width with his DRS. Now let's see what happens here. Keithley tries to get the inside. The width blocks it, but leaves enough space.
It is Jack Keithley seemed to...
Oh, and the contact there, Briljak behind there cannot get the right room and line to get advantage out of that.
Yeah, Patrick de Wit's fighting for this like a dog over a bone, but he just can't...
Briljak out of the on the outside of Keithley. What a brilliant move! But Keithley bombs him in the inside, and it's all allowed. And Briljak now running wide. And he's getting company from Anthony Kolarec. What a race on our hands. Carlos Martin is eager to join that party as well. If we can just take a look from the onboard of Antonio Kolarec, we will see some great action here, going 4-way through the corner.
And so far, it's amazing to see Patrick de Wit holding them off here. He's really having to fight for this. It's not been too bad so far. He's managed to take the corners, and he really wants to get some points, because he knows that if he drops behind one of them, then the chances are the others will get past as well, because you lose that momentum.
Oh! Oh my God! Major contact there between de Wit and Keithley.
I think
the
Patrick de Wit's
crisis
tyres might have
complete. What happened there? Oh my God.
Well, it looked like Patrick de Wit just lost control of the car. He didn't have any contact with any of the others, and it would seem to me that, yeah, we're just looking back at it now, yeah, he just got out of shape as he came over the crest, and then, well, Keithley had nowhere to go really, and it's another thing that you'd say maybe that's a racing incident. We don't know all the details, of course. Did de Wit, maybe his tyres had just run far too long, and it maybe just let go.
That's indeed something for the stewards, but that was definitely a big impact for Patrick de Wit, and who was in front of Keatley at that moment. But the dirty air can be surprising, and what happened was a major crash, and unfortunate to see de Wit out of this race. He's in the pit as we speak, and Jack Keatley in 12th place certainly has damage to his car. I mean, that impact certainly gave him damage, but he's out of the points by 6 seconds at this moment, and Anthony Coleridge in 10th, Peter Briljak now in 9th, and Kostadinov in 8th. So yeah, what an excitement here in the last few laps of this race.
Yeah, and Marcel van der Linden has got past Jan Kostadinov. He's having an excellent race, is the young Dutchman. His more experienced teammate now out of the race, Patrick de Wit, surely. I mean, he's come into the pits, but he's not going to be able to repair a front and rear wing, surely. And Marcel van der Linden is going into 7th place. Kostadinov, apparently, we're just hearing, spun, and in actual fact has dropped back to 11th, so maybe his tyres have gone as well. So maybe here we're seeing... The thing is, this year on R-Factor 2, you don't have the software that developed yet that we had for R-Factor 1, so drivers can't see the brake and engine wear as much as they could in R-Factor 1, and that means that some of these drivers, however experienced they are starting to make mistakes with how long these things last.
Yeah, and Carlos Martin now, who was at one point in the early laps last in this race. Kostadinov lost his brakes. He is out of the race. He lost his brakes. And that's what we said earlier about surprising did not finishes. Dian Kostadinov, with 3 laps shy of the finish, loses the brake temperature out of control and has to forfeit his race. But Carlos Martin now in 10th place. And no! It's Calames! Calames lost his brakes as well! Precision Motorsports with a D not finish. Calames loses his brakes. What are we seeing here? Will there be more?
Well, the thing is, Precision are not having the greatest day in their stable, because that's 2 of their cars now who have had incidents, and Jack Keighley actually will probably get back into the points despite that incident with de Wit. But yeah, we're seeing cars now dropping out like wildfire towards the end of this race, and that's exactly what we said. They don't have the software to check these things as they did in R-Factor 1, and they're making the mistakes. And Van der Linden, well, he's catching Greco as well. He might make the top 5 here.
Yeah, surprising to see Greco into 5th place at this moment, but the whole race has been a roller coaster ride at this moment, so it's really great to see. But Marcel van der Linden, 6th place at this moment, with Peter Briljak 10 seconds behind that. But Carlos Martin is eager to join Anthony Coleridge and Briljak for the fight over 7th place. And I see some dust into turn 1. Oh, and it's... Oh no! Who is that? Someone is off.
I think that was one of the back markers getting out of the way, was it not? I think it might have been Dino Paolini.
I saw smoke and stuff. It could have been a back marker, but I saw some smoke there. Just 2 laps to go. Will we see another retirement? Because the brake wear, well, it already cost 4 do not finishes. Well, the driver's definitely underestimating the brake wear.
The thing is, Chris, these drivers, they do this as a team. We know this ourselves, you know, working in teams. You would do it as a team. So if a Precision Motorsports car has failed on brakes, it's going to be interesting to see, will Bono Huis have problems? Because Calames did, and Patrick de Wit, by the way, because I think he's been off again. He is still on track, Patrick de Wit, but he has been off again, I think, and he's having some problems with that rear suspension. I can see the car almost strafing from side to side with the damage to that suspension, but of course he will pick up 2 places because of Calames and Kostadinov's retirements.
Yes, he is, but it's certainly wise to question his involvement in the race now. It's not nice if he's becoming a danger on the track. And I don't think Patrick should continue driving at this moment. His car is really handling out of proportion. Yeah, well, we did mention, of course, he will pick up 2 places, but of course it won't matter because that'll only be 16th place, and there's no points for that. So yeah, maybe Patrick just needs to come back in, have a cup of tea, and sit down and forget about this weekend and look towards Malaysia in 2 weeks' time. That's definitely the British way, the cup of tea in there, right?
Well, I'm from Yorkshire as well, so it's particularly so. But Morgan Moran is on his last lap now, and I have to say that it has been a faultless performance pretty much from the Netrex driver. We had one moment when he went off the track in Sector 2, but other than that, it has been an absolutely brilliant drive. And on these medium tyres that he's put on for the final stint, well, Bono Huis has not really caught him at all. Huis is 17 seconds down the road behind him, and it has been a wonderful performance for Morgan Moran, and he's coming now round towards the final few sectors. Even if he did brakes fail now, he could probably just coast home.
Yeah, he could, and it's fair to say that if we get the times in the whole weekend, it's a deserved victory. Even though Bono Huis had some difficulties along the way, Morgan Moran has shown a fabulous performance as he has 2 laps to go. He's already celebrating on the track. Last year drove with Ghost Speed, retired at the end of the season, but now he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Crown 7 Netrex driver Morgan Moran claims his first victory of this 2014 season and is the winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Absolutely stunning performance.
It certainly is, but Kolarec on the final lap I think has had a brake failure because he's dropping down the order and he's behind Carlos Martin, and Keithley's got him as well. He's down to 10th, and he is still going to get a point, Kolarec, because he's made the final lap and the 11th place car was a lap down, so has already crossed the line to finish. But Kolarec has lost a couple of places there. Bono Huis has finished 2nd. Van Starkenburg will come 3rd to round out the podium. And we're going to have to wait a little while now before Martin Gosby comes across the line in 4th. And Kolarec is not going to finish this lap. He's off again. But he is still going to get a point because he crossed the line. And crucially, the next car is a lap down. I don't think he knows that, though, because he's still trying to battle on.
Indeed, but strong performance here from Martin Gosby and the Twister team. Same can be said from David Greco if Greco hands on to this 5th spot. And Marcel van der Linden in 6th place. Definitely would have signed for that 1 hour ago when he was into 14th. So strong performance for FTS. The team that is like Ferrari in real Formula 1 has been here since the start. So Marcel van der Linden clinches the 6th place. Peter Briljak has to be happy with 7th place after all those fuss. And Carlos Martin in 8th. Really nice job from Carlos Martin. Jack Keatley in 9th position, and like you said earlier, Antonio Kolarec is cruising to his secured 10th spot with broken brakes.
Yeah, great drive by Morgan Moran, and Marcel van der Linden as well there in 6th place. They'll be very happy with that at Faster Than Speed. Have had a good weekend. I can tell you because I drive for the team that they're 3rd in the championship in Ace as well after yesterday's 2 races. So they've had a pretty good weekend of Faster Than Speed, which given their recent years is really good for the team because we've been at the back for a long time. So it's nice for Faster Than Speed to be back near the front. But Morgan Moran, Bono Huis once again at the front, but maybe in a different order to what they were last year. It's Huis in behind Moran this time, and Van Starkenburg in 3rd. Gosby 4th, Greco 5th, Marcel van der Linden came in 6th place, Peter Briljak 7th, Carlos Martin in 8th place, Jack Keithley 9th, Antonio Kolarec in 10th, Jim Paresis, after that early problem where he lost the front wing on the first lap, never really fully recovered from that, but with the late retirements, actually finished 11th, just 1 place away from a points-paying position. Eros Pasquiuli was in 12th, Adrian Rodriguez 13th, Blair Disley 14th for Go Speed, and Dino Paolini in 15th, the final one of the finishers. No, he wasn't, because Patrick De Witt as well in 16th was 3 laps down and did finish as well. And then we had, in the end, 10 retirements, and included in that was a Precision Motorsports car.
Indeed, and Bono Huis is showing excellent sportsmanship on congratulating Morgan Moran with his words of that was a fantastic pace, mate. And sure, everyone is very impressed with Morgan Moran from Crown 7 Netrex. Precision, maybe not the team result they want, but they got this 2nd place podium with Bono. And Rob van Starkenburg, his first podium in WC World Championship.
Yeah, it's been a great race today, and it's nice to see so many cars action. There was plenty of it today, and it was nice to see as well that in the main there were a couple of incidents that maybe they're going to have to look at. In fact, there were probably more than we've seen in the lower divisions, but that just shows you how much people want to get points in World Championship. And Carlos Martin very neatly drives it back into his pit stall.
Certainly after that first lap incident, he was turned around and he had a massive disadvantage. But Jim Paris as well, finishing 11th, is really a good performance considering he was in the pits and already almost one lap down early on. So really a strong performance from him, even despite the contact early on.
Yeah, it was a great performance, and we've seen some really good performances today. I mean, I'm just going to ask you, Chris, before we end this broadcast, particularly who you think was the driver of the day for you.
The driver of the day, that's a tough question. We've seen so many drives. I have to go with Morgan Morant, considering his qualified pace and his immense gap to the other drivers. He was absolutely stunning. And next to that, it would be a tough call. We saw some fair fights and rough battles between Brilliac and Greco and the precision car of God, I lost his name, but the other precision car next to Bono Huis. And what do you think? Who do you think would take the title of driver of the day?
No, I think I'd have to agree with you. I mean, we know Morgan Moran wasn't really involved in any battles, but nevertheless, it was because of his pace that he was in that position, that he didn't have to worry about battling other cars. I think probably you'd have to say the second best driver of the day would probably be from Van der Linden, especially given that he had that launch control problem at the start. Let's hope that we don't see any penalty for that, because that really would be a shame, given that, you know, a debut drive to finish sixth, that is really impressive. And I think that the team will be, well, I know Christian Smirnoff, the team manager, will be very, very pleased with that. But looking for the championship this year, Chris, FSR seems to be in rude health. We've seen some great battles throughout the day, and it looks like we're going to have a great season this season.
Definitely, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Even though the gap of Morant was huge, the rest of the pack was evenly matched. And it's fair to say that the race in Sepang next time in Malaysia will offer us a great deal of excitement. Everyone knows where they stand at this moment, and they know what to solve for the next race. And I'm curious to see how the teams manage this.
It's just mentioning as well, with Morgan Moran out front and Bono Hui second. We've seen those two drivers up there, but we've also seen that Van Starkenburg can certainly challenge them. And do you think that we'll see more than just those three drivers battling up near the front this year? Because, of course, every track in R Factor 2, you're going to need different setups, different driving styles in certain cases. Yeah. Do you think we'll see some other drivers up there during the course of the year?
Yeah, there's plenty of room for surprises this year. Obviously with the tire model and the complete new crash model, like we all already seen, there's plenty of room for surprises here. And I'm sure there will be one race where there will be a catastrophic turn one, and we see a lot of well, maybe for now back markers driving for perhaps a podium.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And of course, but I'll probably say that Monaco's pretty likely for that turn one mess, but let's hope that we don't see any of that. We like to see action, of course, but we like to see good, clean racing. Well, thanks for being with me this afternoon, Chris. Anyway, it's been good working with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolutely, and for the rest of you watching out there, thanks for watching this evening, and we'll see you in Malaysia. Make sure you're there in 2 weeks' time as FSR continues in 2014. Morgan Moran the winner today, but Bono Huis will be looking to come back at him when we get to Sepang.